All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Resilient Show. We have Taylor Cavanaugh. We just got back from the range. We did the opposite today. Normally we do a podcast and then we go to range to shoot, but just due to scheduling, we did it backwards and went to the range. So we just got back from the range and I kind of like the little bit.
I like it. Mix it up. Little lead therapy at the range. We get a chance to
get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, it helps.
Yep, I liked it a lot. But for those who don't know you, and hopefully a lot of our audience does know you, because I think we have a very like-minded audience. And if those who don't know audience that haven't got to know you yet, I think you're really going to like your story and like what you're about. So
I appreciate that.
I want to introduce you by reading your bio. So Taylor Cavanaugh went from jail to Navy SEAL, back to jail, to suicidal, to French Foreign Legionnaire. Taylor enlisted in the United States Navy in 2010, becoming a Navy SEAL assigned to SEAL Team 7, deploying multiple times to the Middle East as a SEAL sniper, JTAC, and advent-laden specialist. He was then kicked out of the United States Navy for violation of Navy policy after 7 years, then spent 2 years in the civilian world battling his demons, poor habits, and lack of purpose. Taylor then flew to France and entered the French Foreign Legion, becoming the only SEAL Legionnaire on record. When serving as a Legionnaire, he deployed to the South American jungle in Eastern Europe with NATO as a fire team leader. During this brutal time, he established disciplined systems and daily practices that cracked the code on experiencing consistent mental clarity, inner peace, resiliency, and a new mission, and sharing those lessons and principles with others. I think I got it.
Perfect.
Oh, man, pumped to have you on the show and to talk about all this kind of crazy background. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's a wild ride.
Yeah, it was a lot of lessons learned the hard way.
Yeah.
It was a lot of wisdom learned through a lot of mistakes.
Well, the cool thing about if there is a silver lining in that life, it gives you a lot of wisdom and lessons to pass on to others, and that's what you're doing with it now.
Yeah, and I appreciate it because, it does give you a platform. It's tough to teach anybody how to navigate through or help people navigate through mistakes if you've never made them, right?
Right.
And that's, what we were talking about. Sometimes you get a little bit of that negativity. Oh, how's this guy? He's made mistakes. It's like, yeah, no shit. Yeah. That's why I know what it feels like to be at the bottom and what you need to do to get through that redemption arc.
Yeah. Tell us, I guess, your life, hardship in your life started early on in childhood. You had you kind of had not a terrible childhood, but you had kind of a upbringing that kind of solidified your path of resiliency all the way from childhood.
Yeah, I would think, a lot of people grew up, everybody's got the family issues and stuff. My dad was a prior Marine, mm-hmm. and that's what brought us out to Southern California. There was an old Chinook base down in Tustin. Okay. And so it's condos now, but back in the day near Orange, my dad worked on Chinooks and stuff, and he was just 6 in and out. But getting out now, I understand as a grown man what that transition and alcohol and drugs and difficulties of marriage and finances and things like that. It was all part of it. Right. I still think I had a pretty good childhood. Being outdoors, playing outside. Tiffany and I were talking earlier about, kind of that last 80s generation, building ramps and falling down. That was still kind of going on. And in San Diego, it was nice. And tension, there was a lot of tension in the house. And that probably carried on. And I don't put fingers on everything. My mother's amazing. My father, we have a relationship now. Things are good and all positive. And sports. Being outside, being physically fit. My mom was an aerobics instructor. My dad was a former bodybuilder and played, football and all that stuff. So I was grateful that experience of, man, always outside, soccer, football, being active and proud of your country too. Mm-hmm. That pride. My grandfather was a captain in the Navy, Naval Academy graduate. My mom grew up traveling around and all that stuff. And so pride in the military, pride in your country, and that seed got planted early for me at about that time. At about 7, I knew I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I had seen glow lights training in the bay, standing on a hill, and I'm like, Dad, what's that? He's like, oh, those are Navy SEALs training in the bay. I know now they were SQT students, but that blew my hair back. And it wasn't I didn't have a romantic notion. At that time it was Rambo and, Predator and all that stuff was going on. The jungle and all that stuff fascinated me, but I was just fascinated with that guy behind the gun. Like that's a job. That's a dude. That's his, he's getting paid,
yeah.
And then so that, and I think probably for you too, Chad, and a lot of guys who are operators or even in the military, that seed gets planted somewhere early. Yeah. And that's how it was for me.
What was the transition like? I mean, you didn't go right out of high school to become a Navy SEAL.
No.
I mean, there was a pretty long path between graduating high school for you, right?
Yeah, it was checkered, man. But where I was, at least at the time, and my grandfather being, an officer and this and that, my mom was like, "Oh, you can't just go enlist, right? You got to go to college."
Right.
So for me, it was just kind of an extension of high school. I looked at it like just a mandatory thing. You got to go to college. I'm like, all right, I got to check this box. And I knew stuff was going on, but I'm like, well, this is just where I got to go. But I wasn't focused. I got in a massive car accident in that summer. I was going to go and play football in college, and I flew out of the lifted Tundra on the freeway, going God knows how fast. And I was sitting passenger, and miraculously, I dislocated my hip, hurt myself, but I was 100 meters down the road, like on the side of the freeway. And I woke up and walked out of the hospital a couple days later. They popped my hip back in. And so that didn't set me up for success going into freshman year.
Yeah.
Because now we talk about purpose, and this will be this continuous theme that we talk about. Man, I was always the guy that played sports and had that cohesion. And now I'm like on the sideline, so drinking just immediately, and that had already started a little bit in high school. I got kicked out of high school for possession of marijuana and like fighting. And so I lost the lacrosse scholarship that I had kind of prepped. So this was kind of like plan B, in a smaller school. So I was hitting these, and my father wasn't around, right? He was in and out of my life, but wasn't like a prep. It was just my mom. She was a teacher. Single mom, and I have a younger sister. But as a woman, it's hard to raise a man, especially one like a little bit more challenging. I needed a rougher hand, And I made my own money and I did my own stuff, and so I was really I always got good grades, and so I kind of was left alone. But I stayed out at night. I was not the team captain I should have been. I was always kind of pushing the pace. I was down in Mexico shooting steroids at 15, 16 years old, like. Just normal, though. When I look back, though, it wasn't normal because all the guys I was around with at that time are all dead or in prison, every single one. And not one is around. So I knew that was, looking back, that it was probably not normal. But I had carried that momentum into college and immediately got kicked out of school for the same stuff, possession of marijuana, causing havoc on the campus, and the dean was like, no, it's not happening. So now I'm back at home in junior college, living back at my mom's house. I'm working masonry in the morning, trying to go to school at night, having this and not doing either, doing drugs, selling drugs, and just this process of lack of any type of real focus. I was just like, I have to check the box of college or something, but I wasn't even doing it. And so I got in a lot of trouble. So, and that carried on to where I had a moment of clarity, and these moments of clarity, and people who understand, who have experienced these, I call it God speaking to you. Mm-hmm. But I woke up and it was October 2004, mid-October, and it was raining. And for whatever reason, there had been a homeless guy a few months prior who, he said when I walked by, I was 19 at the time, he goes, "Hey man, you know what rain means?" And I was like, "What, dude?" He said, "Change." Right? And no, he wasn't asking me for change. In case but the guy said change. And I don't know why kind of God sends messages to you, but that stuck with me. And I woke up that morning and it was raining in San Diego, which is kind of rare. And I just remember looking around I had a pretty nice apartment, nice truck and stuff. And I felt so hollow, man. Like I was failing again at another college, junior college. This is my third I was failing out of. And I knew the walls were closing in. I was dealing drugs at the time, and I knew things were coming to not going to end well. So I called my dad. My dad had been through a lot of stuff, and I called him up and asked him, hey, I need help. Like, I need to get away from here. He came over immediately. I gave him all the money I had, the drugs, this, and then I went in like a lockdown psych ward, for lack of a better word. I wasn't going crazy or nothing, but it was just for the insurance we had. It was just the kind of
in San Diego.
In San Diego, yeah. And I in there, you know, it was only 5 days, but it was just to kind of get my wits about me. And my dad comes in on like the 5th day, and he goes, you know, so what are you gonna do? And I said, well, you know, I'm going to start this like detailing business. And I'm like, you know, rattling off what I'm going to do. And he leans up to me and he goes, Taylor, you don't have any fucking shoelaces. you know? And I like look down and I go, you know, a person with no shoelaces telling somebody what they're going to do. Right. Yeah. And I realized I just needed to get out of there. So because you want to go back to Boston, right? You want to go back to Gloucester where I was born and we have a lot of our family. So I said, yeah. So I just packed a bag and I left. And that was a transformative experience. I just moved in the basement of my aunt and uncle's house and just tried to grab my life back together. And that was a good process of waking up early, you know, working landscape and going back to school and setting that stake on the horizon. Like, all right, I'm going to finish finish these 2 years. And so I can transfer back to a university and catch up. And I did, you know, in 18 months, I caught up 2 years of school and saved money and did all this stuff and trained in Muay Thai and in Dorchester at the Boston Muay Thai Academy and really feeling good about stuff and focused and isolated, which that when God wants to make a man better, he isolates him.
Yes.
And if you use the time correctly. And I transferred back to University of California, and that was the next chapter of when I started to kind of lose that focus.
Do you, so in Boston, you finish your associate's degree and you go back to California, try to finish the rest of your degree.
Yep.
And, you know, what happens there?
Yeah. And that's,
you're battling with the internal discipline at this point, right?
Yeah. And it's the minute you think you got it, you lost it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't addressed the identity issue.
Okay.
Which is going to be something I didn't figure out till way later, still figuring it out probably.
Yeah.
And, but I hadn't really, I was just in a good situation that was simplified. And so I tend towards discipline, but when distraction would come in, I had absolutely no moral compass. Like my true north was skewed.
What was the things that were taking you off course? Like
drugs and alcohol and girls.
Okay.
Right. Alcohol and girls. And it was, that girl comes knocking and I'm like, hey, yep. And there I was. And now I'm not waking up for school. Now I'm not training as much. And I had started doing jujitsu and I get hurt, in a white belt match, as it was not super good old, subluxation of the patella. And so now I'm taking pain meds and on crutches it just was rough, challenging. And I wasn't handling it well. And I wasn't disciplined and got through those 2 years though, made it. Right, by the skin of my teeth, working and doing different stuff. But I get a DUI in the summer. I have a driving on a suspended. I getting drunk in Publix, some disturbing the peace. And so I'm in a vest picking up trash on the beach at University of California, Santa Cruz often. So and during this time, I'm still going, I'm going to the military after. It's no big deal, right? Mm-hmm. It's no big deal. I'm not doing terrible things. I'm not pushing grandmas in the street. And I didn't realize that you don't have to be doing evil things to be stacking karmic debt or making things very difficult on yourself. I lacked self-awareness on such a massive scale that I was so immature. I had no idea what hurdle I was setting up after. I'm like, I'm going to go in the military. This will be all good, right? I wasn't setting up internships or nothing. I just wanted to check the box and move on. And so I graduated, finished, right? Degree in politics and international relations. And I go to the recruiter. I'm like, okay, let's do this. I go to the recruiter, Marine recruiter, because I wanted to be a SEAL, but I was scared. I was scared I was going to fail and end up on a boat. It's not what I wanted.
You knew other people had failed before?
I knew a lot of people had failed. All-American wrestlers and swimmers and water polo players. And I never heard anybody pass, especially growing up in San Diego. I knew a lot of guys that went. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever passed. And so I was a little bit worried, but I was like, let's go in the Marines. Let me try the officer route. Let me try this. And we're like, you kidding me, dude? You're on probation. You have pending court cases and you need to clean all this stuff up. And that was the first moment I go, oh, okay. There's actually there's consequences to this stuff. So I got a lawyer, talked to a judge, and I said, hey, I want to go in the military. And I mean, it's kind of a left-leaning area, Santa Cruz and that area, Bay Area. And they was like, okay, if you want to go in and you're serious about it, I'm not just going to commute your probation. 6 months in jail and I said, all right. I was fine. I was like, let's do it. And my lawyer got it down to 4, but that's where I went, in a lockdown facility. It was, no yard, I didn't see the sunlight for 3.5 months, but it was 23, just graduated college, only guy in there on misdemeanors. Mind you, there's no felonies. So I'm in there with guys that are going upstate, waiting for serious trials and a lot of time.
And if you're not careful, that opportunity can become worse, right? Because now you get in trouble in jail.
It was a strategy to not get time in there.
Yeah.
Right. It's a strategy.
Crazy a judge would do that.
And it was, looking back, I don't know. It was what it was. But I at least I knew it was weird to say, but I was like glad to be there because it felt like I was finally cleaning up what I needed to. And I had still no guarantee that, because
it was opportunity for a clean slate, right?
Yeah, it was opportunity for a clean slate. At least I could go talk to a recruiter without any pending stuff, but they had no guarantees about me even getting in with the background. So it was interesting experience, but I'm glad I did it. But you really saw, man, there's evil stuff and there's bad stuff. Like it was, people who had done some pretty terrible stuff in the observation ward, and you really see pain on a different level. People that just can't escape that. Being
in that, because say like the county jail. I'm assuming you're in the county jail, right? So these are people transitioning to go to penitentiaries.
Yeah.
In California, Santa Cruz, there's got to be a lot of gangs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was there any pressure like for that?
Yeah. It was fine for me. I didn't have any super crazy. I had a couple friction points, but nothing. I pretty much stayed on my program. I volunteered to work for the jail so I could be kind of out of the pod for a little bit. So I was doing jail laundry 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, which I loved because I could write and read, and I was in just a small room doing laundry. But it was just a time where I was glad to be just focused, and I had that next step kind of ready. And when I walked out of there, it was the day after Christmas at like midnight, they let me go. And this CO goes, "What are you going to do, man?" I was like, "I'm going to go be a Navy SEAL." And he laughed at me. And right on him, it was a delusional statement walking out of jail at 23, 230 pounds, saying I'm going to be a Navy SEAL. But that was what I said. And I don't even know if I really believed it at the time, but it's just what came out of my mouth.
What'd you think when he laughed?
I just went, oh yeah. I just brushed it off because for me, it felt real. It just felt like what I was going to do, but I didn't even have a clear path to that yet. I hadn't even talked to a Navy recruiter, and I ended up going to talking to a Marine recruiter again, and they actually turned me down for tattoos. So they sent all my pictures up to some brass, and they said no. But mind you, I didn't have neck or hands or any of that. Just too much a percentage of my body was covered. So they said no. They couldn't even enlist. They wouldn't let me. So I went to the Army, and they said no. Too much checkered background. They didn't want to deal with it. So I went back and rode my bike because I don't have a car or nothing right now. And I'm 23, sleeping on my mom's couch, and I had this like cloak of just massive depression and that feeling of like, dude, you're a loser. Like you're not doing nothing. And look, this is the reality you've created. And I had that voice, that authentic voice, kind of speak to me and go, "Hey man, get up, lick your wounds, write down on a piece of paper, and go take it of the dispositions of your cases and your charges, and just go take it to the Navy recruiter. Just go give him a piece of paper." And that's what I did. I rode my little Huffy, whatever I was riding down there, skirts, and pulled it up to the front. And I gave it to this petty officer, first class, man. And he looked at it for a million years, and he stared at it. Probably was 2 seconds. And he said, "We can work with this." He's like, "But your jobs that are very, very narrow, what you can do." He goes, "You could pretty much wrangle turds or be a Navy SEAL." He's like, "If you can pass all the stuff, because you can't do corpsman stuff. You can't do this or that because of the drug charges." And And mind you, it was marijuana and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It wasn't like I was doing any hard stuff, and there was no felonies or anything, or no stealing, nothing like that. So he's like, yeah, we can work with this, but you're going to need waivers and this and that. And so I said, okay, well, let's do it. And that's when I started the MEPS process and that, and getting all that deal and working on my SEAL contract.
And you actually get a SEAL contract, so you're guaranteed a shot at Buds.
Yeah. So I had to, it was kind of like how the 18X program, if people are aware of, like, you can come off the streets, you have to sign into the Navy, DEPT in, so delayed entrance processing. You get a job. Mine was aviation technician or something. You have to actually be in the Navy. And then you have to earn your SEAL contract before you ship. So you sign a new contract and then ship on that contract. That's what I did. I found who's who in the zoo, and a retired lieutenant commander, SEAL, Joe Fuller. Shout out, brother. He was instrumental and a senior chief at the time.
They consider those mentors as SEAL
Yeah, it was
mentor,
a SEAL Challenge program. He ran like Vegas, LA, and like that area, but he would facilitate physical screening tests weekly, also trainings at the Naval Amphibious Base. Being from San Diego, I was you're
in the right spot.
was training on the beach and in the pool that I would be at. So I was like, I'm going to take advantage. So I'm driving in my $500 Jeep that I bought from my aunt, purple, man, stick shift, working at Home Depot, stacking boxes on the graveyard shift, and then training and really, really pushing myself, running around Pendleton with an active duty SEAL who that was his program. And I couldn't run a mile when I started. I mean, I couldn't make it around the block. I had sprinted and I lifted weights and stuff, but I had no run training. And so I had to lose 40, 50 pounds by the time by 9 months, 10 months doing weekly screening tests and working out and getting FaceTime. I was getting letters of recommendation and doing well on the screening tests, and I got my contract. And that was an unbelievable moment, seeing that paper and signing that, going, okay, well, now it's really going to start.
Yeah,
and shipped out.
And all that gives you is a chance to try.
And I just wanted to get my foot in the door. That's all I wanted, was a chance to get my foot in the door. And when I was in boot camp, we had a really good boot camp division. We had, it was 100 SEAL candidates. So it was a special operation. It was a special program, but this was just SEAL specific boot camp. And I think out of those 100 guys, 9 made it or 10 made it or something, but 7 out of those 9 are still operating at the high level, right? So we had a really good crew, and I knew we had a good crew. It just felt good, and it proved to be true. But go through, boot camp, basically on more demolition preparatory school, and then BUDS, and then SQT and all that. And during this time, mind you, because really we're talking about mindset here, right? People know all about the training and stuff, but I was so happy. I felt like I was right in my purpose, like very few moments. And I'm sure you felt it, Chad, on being in pipelines, knowing that's exactly where you're supposed to be, not thinking you need to be somewhere else. Or I was right in where I knew I needed to be. And I was so grateful for the opportunity. It was hard, but I was locked on. There was no going out or this or that.
You knew what you were there for.
I knew what I was there, and I didn't feel like I had anything to celebrate. Not yet. And I was very, very happy with just resting on the weekends and taking the time. And I needed all that edge I could get. I didn't want to leave anything on the table. And I needed it too, man. Some people fly through that selection training. I made it all the way through by the grace of God, injuries and stuff one time, but I knew I didn't have another go. I had one push of going through this thing in terms of just motivation and just physical ability. I couldn't lose any fitness or any of that. And made it through, and ended up going to Team 7 right after about 1.5 years of that pipeline.
Yeah, what was Team 7 like?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It was where I wanted to be. Leadership was good. We got a lot of big names were there, guys that you've talked to. Mm-hmm. It felt right, and I was really happy to be there early, stay late, really kind of be just enveloped in it completely. It was my identity, which is, as we'll get into, very dangerous. When a tab or a pin or a uniform is your identity. It was really what I hung my hat on. And as this timeline's going on, I had a speed wobble with the drinking once. I got kind of in trouble and was nothing big deal. And so it kind of got brushed under the rug, but okay, back on it. And then we're going to Yemen. And so that was kind of what we had a
Did you go sniper school before that, or?
Yeah, so
because all new guys go to like some type of specialty school in the beginning, right? Like
yeah,
breacher, sniper.
Yeah, I had a really good clip. I had hit a really good wave where I went to comms JTAC sniper as a new guy within like a 6-month period. So I was just knocking them down, and I'm like hitting the wave. I felt like I was in this wave of purpose, and it felt good. Yeah. You know, life was very good, and it felt very correct. My sister was also married to a SEAL at the same team at the same time, and so there was like the synergy in my family.
How'd that happen? Did she meet through you, or
met through me? Right.
Okay.
It ended up not working out as a lot of that world is, but great dude.
Yeah.
You know, nothing but amazing things to say about him, and it was just our family was tight in that community. It was a lot going on.
You go to sniper school, and then you guys work up. Yemen comes up for you to deploy Yemen. What was that deployment like? That was your first deployment, right?
It was our first deployment, and even right before that, we did a little mission down in Mexico for Obama's G20 summit.
Okay.
And I almost died. It was the closest I've ever come to dying in my entire career. When it was in Mexico on Cabo in the summer. It really caught me by surprise because when he was transiting, they were worried about the cartels.
Right.
Kind of wrapping them up or whatever. And so we're kind of kitted up. We were behind LCUs. We went from an LHA to LCUs, and now we're a couple miles off to sea.
So the guys don't know what LCUs are. It's kind of landing craft.
It's like D-Day, those D-Day ones. They're looking like.
The ramp, that big ramp that lowers off the front. Water comes onto the deck, and they can roll tanks and Amtraks and all that stuff off of it. Zodiacs, you can launch Zodiacs off of it.
Yep. And we were towing ribs with Zodiacs stacked on them. So we were the SWIC team and then a element of SEALs. We were sleeping on a weather deck, and it was all good until it wasn't, right? Yeah. And I hadn't really dip tested all my stuff. I'd kind of gunned. I'm like, it's gonna be good. It's all fresh, but I was heavy too. I was carrying a radio, full set of mags, nods, helmet, and a storm came in, a pretty substantial storm, and it's like 2-3 in the morning, and the ribs are getting smashed against the LCUs. One of the sides deflated on the ribs, and we're like, we got to cover down and like go into shore. We have to. And so they routed it up to the president, who, we're coming in hot with machine guns. You can't just go rolling in. So they called it up, they got the approvals, and then I'm going, all right, well, we got to jump. And it's like I'm in Solomon's, and they're kind of slipping around, and I'm going, hey, I'm going first. And I just like, I'm just going to go. Yeah. And I jump, man. And I hit the side and go in the drink. And full kit, had one water wing. I think no flotation in the kit. Like that I couldn't even get, of course, when you need it. And my gun's wired in. There's no jettisoning anything. And I wouldn't have anyway. As a new guy, I was going down to the bottom with this thing, man. I was gonna die for that. I was not losing the gun. And so I start treading water, and I'm in it. You're
not buoyant.
And I'm kicking hard, and I'm a decent swimmer. I was kicking hard it was probably minute and a half, maybe maximum, but it felt like 50,000 years. And then I was getting hypercapnia, starting to see yellow, and I'm losing it, and I'm going down the drink, and I get a hand. Sean Glass, what's up, brother? He's actually he's part of the meet Prime, I think it is, with Jocko.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but he was my OIC, and he reaches down, he grabs my hand, and he pulls me out. He goes, "Want to lift?" I'm like, just in it, get pulled in. But that moment, I realized, oh, dude, it's big boy rules now. There's no more railings. There's no one's checking your shit. Like, man, you got to make sure your head's on a swivel. And I'm glad that happened then, because I carried that lesson for me. Like, don't get ready, stay ready. And it's going to happen when you don't expect it.
The consequences, it goes from fun to serious really quick.
And as I'm sure you've seen 1,000 times over, and that was an interesting and humbling experience for me. But that carried in, and now we're going to Yemen. So now we're going to Yemen, and that was just growing a beard and getting weird, on a fob. It was not a hot deployment. We're trying to counterterrorism unit, and on the, you know, an old abandoned Russian airfield where I'm shooing camels off, trying to land C-17s, you know, and at night it was an interesting deployment, but I was just happy, man, you know, happy to be hearing that morning prayer and sitting in the sniper tower and just thinking back to walking out of jail and everybody along the way telling me, dude, there's no way you're going to get a secret clearance, let alone a top secret clearance, let this or that, dude. It's not happening. At every single turn, it was just, dude, stop, dude. It's not going to happen for you.
Was there a point that the reality of that hit you? I mean, this is not a common story that you're someone that spent time in jail. You had pretty much train wrecked your beginning of your life, and you get this incredible second chance, and now you're at some point you had to be sitting there like, I'm a United States Navy SEAL sniper.
Yeah.
And you overcame that. Is there a point that hit you ever?
Oh, many times.
Yeah.
It hit me hard, and I was just in a very good state of gratitude, but gratitude's not a feeling, it's an action. And I hadn't paired the maturity with the gratitude, right? Or really played out the consequences on things when you don't see them coming, right? I was like, okay, on the field, and then off the field, I'd be a liability in some cases. And that, when I got home, was that momentum was picking up, training hard, working hard, doing well, but now the partying on the off the field's getting a little harder. Now I'm kind of getting loose, still showing up early and so training hard and going to crushing all the schools. And that's why I could lie to myself. I'm like, hey man, I'm doing it all here. So it's like, why not being able to go hard in every direction? And it's all good till it's not. And I hit a guy in a bar on a training trip. It was like one shot. That's all it takes, man. And doesn't matter what had happened, right? But I hit him, and that now I have an aggravated assault charge. He gets hurt, you know, and I broke his orbital eye socket. So now I have a aggravated assault charge, felony charges. There's flying brass up. It's turning into a thing. Now I'm getting sued. Now all this stuff is compiling, and now I have an expensive attorney, and now I'm sidelined. So now I'm sidelined. Top secret clearance gets put on hold. So now I'm fighting this battle of stress going, I just ruined my whole career. Iraq's fast approaching because this was the tail end of my second workup. Iraq's fast approaching. So I'm let me just see how this goes, and just walking through quicksand. Like, what am I going to do with my life, my identity? And just as fate holds it, the team wrote a letter to the judge, and the judge accepted it. And I had good attorneys, and they kicked the can down the road on the case. But my plea deal was 6 years in prison plus 3. They weren't breaking off that. It was for real. They were holding strong on that, whether they wanted to make an example of me or whatever it was, or that's just what it was. And I know I wasn't a victim in the situation. That's for sure. I did it to myself. And so I get the approval to go to Iraq. So I'm still on bail. I go to Iraq on bail. But I'm facing a jury trial, facing 6 years in prison when I come back. So that deployment was stressful.
Just pressure.
Yeah, stressful. It was an interesting deployment. You know, still some difficulties with approvals and the timing. They're prepping for the Mosul offensive. We're a little bit south of Mosul, and building out a FOB and training the Sunni tribal fighters in the area and getting them into cohesive units. And, you know, but I'm just thinking this whole time about going back home. I volunteered to stay there 3 months longer, to kick the can down the road longer. Yeah. It ended up not getting approved, but it allowed the court case to kind of keep getting rolled. But now I'm back. I come back home, and now I'm facing that.
How was that deployment overall?
I think it was positive. You know, as things happen, it was like, it wasn't Ramadi. We're not kicking in doors, right? As it is, but it was interesting to see kind of the political reality of what was going on there. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not there, but you're getting shot at. You know, It's very odd. You know, they're like, you're not technically in there, but you're on the flot, you know, and all these things are kind of happening. Your rockets are landing into camp. But Nothing crazy, right? Nothing crazy. Everybody was fine. We got a lot of targets hit and a lot of packages built and all that stuff. We built the fob out and did what we needed to do. But
now you're home and having to finally face this trial.
Yeah. And that coming home piece was tapped with some personal problems and some things going on with the relationship I was in at the time. But that was honestly minor. Because I'm looking back, I was not handling the stress well, right? I was not like, all right, I'm going to lock on. And, I was kind of like walking the plank. I guess what it kind of felt like. Still going to the gym, still working hard, still training and doing all my stuff, but just always this cloud of, dude, you might. And my attorney would even say this, and good on him, John Cox, I love you. He would be like, you might burn for this, man. Like, for real, you might burn for this. But I was in a very...
Just curious, the attorney you had, is this like Navy appointed attorney?
Oh, no, this was civil. Because all this was happening on the civilian side. I had already gotten busted down and dealt... The stuff on the military side, because they put it up on camera in my board. And so everyone's like, oh, they saw... and some of the names that are in my board. Yeah. And they're like, we kind of saw what happened. It wasn't terrible. It was like, but it was what it was, right? On the civilian side. And
so they NJP'd you?
Yeah, I got NJP'd, busted down a rank. I had just made E6, like early promote and busted down. And so now I'm an E5 again.
For those listening, NJP is non-judicial punishment. Yeah. Military.
Yeah.
Military.
And a terrible experience.
Yeah.
Terrible experience. If anybody had gone through it, you're in your dress, uniform in front of the captain and you're reading off stuff. And I had failed on a lot of things with the SEAL Creed, and it was truthful. I wasn't holding the standard as far as operating with honor, out in town and stuff. And so that was something I dealt with, but we got through it. And now that jury trial's coming up and they give me a plea deal on the courthouse steps, right? I'm like, thinking that my life's over. We get a call that morning and okay, you're on formal probation for 4 years. You can't technically own a weapon. You can't leave San Diego without approval. It was like all this stuff. We have to do an interstate compact transfer. It's all this very complicated thing. And you got to serve time, a few more weeks in jail. So I go, okay, I take vacation. I serve my time in jail again.
So Navy gave you leave.
As an active duty SEAL, I'm serving time in jail in all packed with felons and drug offenders and whatever. And there I am again, doing my burpees and whatever, and happy to be cleaning it up. And when I got out, I was on a very strict probationary term, right? I couldn't drink. I had to be tested. I had to check in and had to get all these approvals, and I wasn't mature enough to deal with it, and I hadn't still dealt with, and people listening, I'd be like, dude, you can't learn. No, apparently not. I hadn't learned. I could negotiate with myself in the most incredible way. And I always say, dude, you don't need to negotiate beautiful choices, and because they're simple, right? But justification, negotiation, that's when that's when the devil comes calling. And during those negotiations, and I was failing when that call would come. Yeah. And it was that temptation, man. To tempt is to try or to test, right? It's the definition of temptation. And I just was failing at those. The girl would call, the this, the that, and I was good. I wasn't just like, fuck it, I'll do whatever. I would like be good. I'm like, hey, no, I'm no. And then it would like the one and then the slippery slope. And then now I'm back on it. And that was a few months. And then I get in another altercation, and it wasn't like a fight or anything. It was a golf cart I get in that wasn't mine. It was the county's, and I'm at a concert, and it just was something funny that turned into something not funny real fast. Yeah. And now I got dogs getting sicked on me and tasers and getting blasted.
Wait, what happened with the golf cart?
I'm in a Jimmy Buffett concert, and there's a golf cart, and I'm drinking, and I'm like, oh,
and you're not supposed to be drinking.
No, I'm not supposed to be drinking. Okay. And I'm on a date, and I get in this golf cart. I'm like, I do a lap, just a joy lap around the thing. I wasn't taking it anywhere, but somebody called and was like, this guy with no shirt, hopped in the county golf cart. And the cop pulled up behind me, and I just immediately had that like, dude, what are you doing? You are effed right now.
Yeah, you're on probation.
You're on probation. You're, drunk, and they're going to run your thing. And I said, hey, and I grabbed my stuff and I tried to split. And when I did that, they tried to tackle me, and I got up and I kept going. They sick a dog on me. I fight the dog off. I have a huge chunk out of my ass from this German Shepherd. I hop a fence. They shoot a taser. Now it's like this snowball thing. They shoot three tasers.
These are San Diego police?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
San Diego police, and there's like 100 people watching this whole mayhem go down, and they take me down and they give me all the love. and then I'm bloody, dirty. I get in the back of the cop car, and I just hit the nail.
Most places in America, a Navy SEAL could outrun the police.
Yeah.
Not San Diego. San Diego's got some fit police officers.
Well, the thing is I got away from the police. I got away from the dog. And I got away from the first 2 tasers that I pulled out. It was the third taser and they shot me one of those long ones. And they got me right in the middle of the back, and I couldn't get it. But it was because of that police report that that's what it ended up was the nail in the coffin. And I'll tell you why, what happened with Navy JAG with that. But when I got in the back of that cop car, I knew I had hit the nail in the coffin of my SEAL career. And I said, call SEAL Team 7. Like normally you'd probably try to like manage it at the lowest level. I said, just call SEAL Team 7.
You told the police officer?
Yeah. I just call SEAL Team 7, tell them you have me under arrest and what the deal is. He said, okay. And that caused this shit storm, and the team's mustered because of me. And so now they go drug test me. I get out, bail out, and I drug test me. I passed the drug test. But then Navy JAG's reading the police report going, this guy pulled out tasers, he fought the dog, and this and that, and he's on performance-enhancing drugs. And I was. And they sent my stuff up to the Olympic Testing Center for steroids, and I lit that test up. They're like, dude, your test is too high of this. And I said, yeah, I wasn't denying it. And because I wasn't denying it, I wasn't trying to fight it. I said, yeah, this was the case. And, I was like, what do I need to do to kind of mitigate the work for the team and stuff? And this was the side that I really started to see. So now I'm pulled offline and my life's over, right, to me. And the Master Chief at the time, he looks at me and he goes, you going to be okay? You going to do anything? You okay? I looked at him. I said, yeah, I'm okay. I'm not going to do nothing, nothing stupid. And he said, okay. He's like, I looked at you and I knew you were good. He's like, but this is going to be a rough go for you. I said, I know. And it was a very challenging time now I know I'm getting processed out. I take a general discharge because I wasn't fighting it. It was part of the deal. They took my GI Bill if I hadn't had to, it wasn't trying to drag this thing out. And so I signed out, had to go back to jail.
Oh, so that's actually a good thing. They let you get a general discharge.
Yeah, they took they gave me an OTH, but the captain of SEAL Team 7, a lot of respect for this dude. He said, this dude, yeah, he's done some stuff, but he had done a lot of good work for us for 6-7 years. And he doesn't deserve an OTH, right? He's done some, so he has the ability to cap it one from whatever your discharge. So I got a general. So I really appreciate it. That was a really cool move for him. And I probably didn't deserve it, but I really appreciate him doing that for me.
Good on him for doing that.
Yeah, I'm really grateful. And now the military side's kind of clear that I'm done. And so I'm kind of processing that. I have a brother-in-law still there and the family stuff, and I'm trying to figure my next step out. During this time, I'm still getting sued. Still now I'm violation of probation. So now I have federal marshals in a van looking to extradite me back to another state, and just so much chaos. I don't even know how I was breathing. Truthfully, it was just so much tension. But I get it cleared up, go back to jail, commute my probation, and actually get it processed through with just some good attorney work. But after I walked out of jail that second time.
How long were you in that second?
A few weeks again.
Okay.
So it was like a few weeks, a couple times up in the same spot. But the COs up there were like, this fucking guy's back, like this idiot. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, you're right. And that's what I said to the correctional officer, like, dude, you cannot. And that was walking out of there. I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. And I didn't. That was the last time I had ever been arrested ever, was at that time. I still had a lot more to learn, but I knew I was done with that part of it. Like, I just couldn't deal with rising from the ashes again, or going to jail again and breaking it all down. So I walked out of jail, and now I'm no probation, out of the military, and into the civilian world.
Did you have a plan? Like, hey, what transition plan? What are you going to do?
Yeah. And so I knew this was happening for 6 months, right?
Sure, yeah.
So I'm okay with leveraging contacts, and I had, through the SEAL community and golfing and different stuff. I don't even really like golf, but
you know how to drive a golf cart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just not
well enough.
Yeah, not good enough. Not good enough to get away from the cops. But
and I knew I wanted to get into real estate. I wanted to get into real estate development. Talk to the right people. Got some sit downs with some good people, and ended up walking into a supervisor position for the largest private residential developer in the United States on the largest project in the United States. So now I'm driving another golf cart, riding around a $750 million project as the number 2 guy, and I knew nothing about construction. But I know how to manage teams, and I know how to admit when I don't know something, and then I'll find it out, right? Yeah. That was one thing I am good at. And so we ran that project down in South San Diego for, a year. We did 19 million in sales, from underground trenching all the way to final sale, walking through homes and doing well. But this, without the governor on of the military and this purpose, and I had not addressed the identity issue in the least, or the faith issue, really. And through this piece, I will say, and this is an important, I always knew I had a protective and guiding force in my life. I never have questioned the reality of God. Never. Even in like my darkest times, it wasn't, it was, man, dude, I guess I'm gonna have to power through this one. Let me know the lessons. That was always the internal tone of me since a child. I always felt this presence that I spoke to and had a direct communication with. I felt that. And I, even as a young child, I would read the Bible. There was just a lot of something powerful about all that. And so through all this, I was trying to pick but I like shelved faith. I shelved that commitment to like moral excellence. I just couldn't identify what that was yet. But I was like, knew whatever I was doing wasn't correct. But I was taking Adderall every day, Xanax, was drinking every day, at night. Oh, take the edge off. But I was in the gym sipping vodka after work. It was like waking up early, crushing it all day, doing sales and making all these wickets, smoking weed at night. Now it was legal. And that's fine, right? It's all good.
What took you down that road? Because you're coming up, I mean, obviously being a Navy SEAL is a disciplined lifestyle. You get out, like what took you down that road to make the decision to start taking pills? Yeah.
And it's a good question, because I had done that stuff before, and then I cut it, right? It wasn't really prevalent.
Before the Navy.
Yeah. It was like, I had done before the Navy, and then I was going in the SEALs. I had a reason. It was like, you can't do drugs, and so you're going to get smashed. Right. And so I just didn't. And then when I got out, I was like, oh, cool. I do whatever I want now. And I found that I would wake up and perform better and this and that, but it was totally messing with my chi. It was not good for my balance. I was emotionally responsive, violent with people in my life. Like the current relationship was tumultuous, but I'm like, I'm in the nice truck and the house by the beach, and I'm doing well in my work. And it's like, obviously what I'm doing is working. And that was the dangerous part, is I could just lie to myself, which is the worst lies we tell. I just lied to myself, but I was just not being the best man I could be. And it was just becoming more and more apparent. And I was really riding the line, and now weed became legal. So I get kind of an opportunity kind of come to me that go, hey, we're about to launch a cannabis distribution company in California. Do you want to be the, chief security officer, try to like build this thing? So I'm like, okay. It was a risk. I was leaving something good to do this lateral step into something unknown. So I left that other job, which, was what it was, but I saw some value in this. And so now I'm in this cannabis business, building this company and facility out in Palm Springs and talking to congressmen. And now I'm pitching decks. And now the big venture capitalist who was kind of funding all this sees I'm doing all this work and raising all the capital. And he goes, hey, will you start pitching decks for this other companies I have? And now I'm this guy's right-hand man, pitching decks for millions, using my network and also still developing all this stuff. And I was flying at 1,000 miles an hour, massive levels of stress. And now he fires everybody, and now I'm the CEO, and now I'm running all this stuff. Now I'm in a high rise, and so I'm going, what I'm doing is working. I feel like I'm riding, but now I stack on an opiate habit. So I'm snorting fentanyl at night after work, and I'm done with my stuff, writing emails till 3 a.m, sleeping for a few hours, waking up, doing Adderall, and then all day. And then you cannot bend reality that long.
You know what's crazy to me? People will think this is jaded opinion because that I might have over the cannabis thing. But if I could take my opinion about the cannabis thing out of it, I've seen so many like really solid military guys, especially soft guys, get out and get offered the opportunity to work in the cannabis industry. In every single store, it was all a great opportunity for everyone, very entrepreneurial. And every single one of them was a complete like catastrophe. It's
not a great industry. Personally, I don't think anything that requires you to escape is good. And this was stuff I would find out later. Yeah. You're low in your vibrational frequency. It's not, in my opinion, it's net negative, right? That's just my opinion on it. For after having been experienced, and I've been around it my whole life, right? At least the industry too. It's not, everything's not always on the up and up in that industry. And you're dealing with a lot of shady characters. Yeah.
Just because something legal doesn't mean it's good.
Absolutely.
Just because something's profitable doesn't mean it's good.
1,000%. Yeah. And for me, it was wasn't the best. It just wasn't healthy. And so now this is going on for about a year, and now speed wobbles are starting. Right? It's coming to a head, but I'm the last one to see it. Even more emotionally explosive, very short temper, still going 1,000 miles an hour.
Let me pause you and ask you. I want to ask this because, as we talk about resiliency and, it's kind of my stick is the resiliency stick and yours as well. Like we talk about the pillars of resiliency, like mind, body, spirit, social. Like I'm really curious with this aspect of the social circle where you are in this part of your journey. Yeah. Did you have any like good accountability around you, like people that'll tell you the hard things, not what you wanted to hear, like tell you the things you needed to hear? Did you had anybody around you at that time, or had you like lost those people along the way?
Yeah, I had lost some people along the way, and here's the thing: even if it was the most solid cat, I wouldn't have listened. I was so
you systematically refused accountability.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered who it was. Yeah. I wouldn't have been able to hear it. I was so blocked off, and I was so locked into what I thought was right. My ego was just massive. I didn't see it as ego, but that's what it was. It was, I don't give a shit what anybody's got to say. I'm doing this, and it all's burning down around me, and I'm thinking everything's all good.
More and more I'm seeing, as in this line of work and having these conversations, and how important a social pillar is for people. Yeah. Like to have very intentionally have the right community around them. Yeah. And when I see guys in there going down this negative trajectory, they always continue to separate themselves from the herd, reject accountability, isolate themselves from any authority, peer authority, community authority, and just it's their demise. Like we're meant to be a community.
1,000%, and it happens gradually, so gradually that you don't see it. Right. And that's the danger is you can see it from the outside. Sure. But then and you're right, it's just this slow isolation, and you're just kind of blocking off, and that's totally what had happened. And it all I fell on my face, quite literally, right? I did a line of fentanyl, and I went down, smashed my face open on the table, which wasn't the first time, mind you. I would just do this a few times and would just get up and stitch it up and just go to a meeting like nothing had happened. It was wild looking back, but this was just the last time, and certain people knew, and I sit down with the VC boss, and he goes, "You were an asset, now you're a liability." And that was it.
The venture capital boss of
the
industry.
Overarching. Yeah. And it gives me the chills still. We're sitting in this high rise, and I'm looking out at the glass. We're at a $20,000 glass table, and he's telling me this, and I'm going, all right, I guess I'm done, right? And he's like, you got to get out of here. We have some business ventures, and Hawaii, you need to get out of here and maybe chill out for a little bit. You're on a sabbatical, and then we'll kind of touch base with you. Looking back, I was getting marooned, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I'm glad that was how destiny had it, because I just said, okay, sold all my stuff, shipped my truck out to the big island of Hawaii, and cut away, because I knew I had to get off opiates. I hadn't even addressed the other stuff, but I knew there was, anybody watching this, there's no riding off into the sunset with an opiate addiction. It does not happen.
Yeah.
It's just impossible. Financially, it's sucking the soul out of you. And I had no idea fentanyl and opiates, it was the devil had its hooks in me on a very deep level. And I'll talk about getting off it with that exposed. And so I get out there and I go, all right, I'm going to have no contact. So I can't even buy it if I wanted it, which was massive. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. And I just white knuckled it, man. And I just went a week, didn't sleep at all. And I didn't think I had an addiction. That was the funny part, is I just didn't have an addiction, but I hadn't been off it ever. So how would I know? But that was a real chemical addiction. And I didn't sleep for 5 days. I had to take myself to the ER because my joints were starting to swell. I'm like, hey dude, I'm a prior Navy SEAL. I know what sleep deprivation's like. I'm maxing out here to where it's starting to get dangerous. So they, gave me some non-narcotic, like sleeping pill or something, which was needed. But I fell asleep and I woke up and I felt myself coming out of the fog of that, at least. Mm-hmm. Still hadn't addressed the daily drinking, still hadn't addressed the amphetamines and the Adderall and stuff. I was still like, it was taking it kind of in phases, but now I was completely purposeless. And I'm like, all right, I'll kind of go to the gym, start getting healthy. But I was in one of the worst states. I go, you can be in paradise and be in absolute hell. Right. It was not enjoying a time out there. It was, my emails are
paradise,
cut off.
Hawaii, right?
Yeah. And I'm in Hawaii. Well, I'm in Hilo area. So it's not like Maui or something, but it's Hilo area, and I'm training and I'm going to the gym and I'm swimming and I'm like out, like just trying to get recentered. And I had a kind of a crazy, like, I don't know if I was going insane or what from the experience. And it was a few months deep where I had just like a religious experience that just kind of reset me. And the Book of Enoch was coming up, man. And I didn't even know what that was, and so I started looking into it, and I'm having I'm taken down to the lava fields by some entities. And then it was pretty wild. Even capping back on it, I don't really know how to frame it. But after all this kind of happened, now I find myself in my truck in the jungle. And I turned the key off to the truck. And this had been like, a few months of this timeline. And the engine went off, and I realized I got no money, $6 in my bank account, no gas, nothing, no title, no anything, and nothing. And I had this cloak of like, just everything got shut down. And I went, oh, this is how it happens. It just kind of catches up on you. And it was almost 2 years to the day, right? Till I had got out of the United States military, all that whole time frame.
Well, earlier I asked you, you had hit a point to where you were in your life at this low point in jail. And then now you're at a Navy SEAL and you're asking yourself, how did I go from here to be in jail to become a United States Navy SEAL sniper? And now it's the opposite, right? You're like, I was a United States Navy SEAL, and now I'm sitting in my truck.
Oh, dude, even you saying that now, Chad, is like, because that was the mantra in my head. Yeah. I was there in my dream, and I didn't lose it. I gave it away. That was I gave it away. It wasn't taken from me, something outside. It was all me. Every step of the way. And then even after losing that, I had built myself back up and gave it away again. And I was sitting there, and that's when I realized I wasn't sad. I wasn't crying. I wasn't like, oh, poor me. I was tired. And that is, I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of guys like this, Chad. It's just that they go, I'm just tired, man. I just don't want to try.
Yeah.
I was just tired of trying to be great, of trying this and trying that. But really what I had been trying to do was grab external validation. I'm going to be an Navy SEAL. I'm going to be this guy and just try to like put a patch on my identity, whatever maybe rooted childhood thing it was. I don't know. Still probably don't know. And I don't even care to know because I hadn't really attached my faith and my purpose yet to fix it. And that's the only way you can fix it is from the inside out.
Yeah.
And so I sat there for 3 days and I had a sawed-off shotgun on my passenger seat that I had acquired from God knows where in Hawaii, right? And I was thinking about killing myself for 3 days. And I'm sitting there and I would go through, and I'm gone straight native. I'm like shoeless, no shirt. And I'm walking through the jungle right near where the volcano had been erupting. It's a powerful area. A lot of mana there, a lot of bad and good energy down there. And but I knew nobody would mess with me because there's just, there's nobody down there. And I walked over to this cliff, man, and it's like I look over the edge and I'm like, maybe I'll jump off this thing. And I'm like, dude, it ain't high enough. I'm pretty hardy. I was like, I'm just gonna get smashed on the rocks and like
lay there for a week broken.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And so I was like, no, dude, no.
Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe I'll jump in the volcano. And that was a moment where I'm like, you're gonna jump into a volcano, bro? Are you fucking you're out of your mind. You can't even kill yourself in a chill way, dude. You're just doing too much. And it kind of made me laugh a little bit in like a sadistic way. But this is when that moment of clarity, that God voice, man, spoke to me. And it was like, you pussy. Listen to your internal dialogue. Dead serious. I was sitting on a log. I can hear it as plain as day. Listen to your internal dialogue. It's me. I. You have a mother, a sister. What kind of damage are you going to leave? And what kind of way out is that? Soft. And I wasn't about that. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to go out, I'm going to do it with my boots on, at least.
Yeah.
It's not going to be by my hand. And I was like, I'm going in the French Foreign Legion. Fuck it. And that was the moment I decided. And 8 days later, I was in France, or like 10 days later, I was in France.
Before we go there, I want to ask. I mean, I know you talk a lot about your faith, and obviously, I'm a pretty strong Christian. I mean, what I see, you are going through, not there in Hawaii, but for a very long time, very real spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm just getting to know you, and you're a pretty unique human being. Like you're capable of like, I'm around a lot of people. Like you're a world changer kind of personality. You're like capable of like making stuff happen. It's just within you. That's God created you that way. And we have this. God creates us for different things, and creates guys like you to be world changers. But we have a spiritual enemy that sees that. Yeah. And we'll do everything to destroy that and derail that. And man, I'm just looking at your life and like, I just think you're capable of so much like greatness. And since you were a kid, like the devil's been like just trying to derail you. And it's probably still going on today. I don't know you well enough to know that, but that's what I see like this happening, man. You're just at this fork in the road and you're searching for this purpose and through all these occupations and jobs and accolades. And man, like that purpose has nothing to do with a job title. Yeah. And those things are great, by the way. Yeah. Being a Navy SEAL is pretty awesome. Being in the Legion is awesome. But those things are great, but that's not what you were seeking. And I just think that you've just been in this, just trapped in a spiritual war for so long.
Man, it's powerful for you to say that. I really appreciate it. Come from you. That means a lot, Chad, because, and I was absolutely in it. And that God doesn't attack ones at the bottom. He attacks ones on the top and the way up.
Oh, you're a target, bro. I'm going to tell you. That's why I'm saying that to you. Like just getting to know you today, like you have like so much potential and capability to like lead people and move people and like change the world around you. Like that makes you a target. Like there's lots of people on the planet that the devil's going to go after, but the ones that are world changers, like you may have watched every episode of the show. I've never said this to anyone. Like you are a target because of who you are and who God created you to be. Yeah. That's why you've went through all this.
Well, it's a powerful thing. And hearing you say that, it's even more powerful because I didn't realize if that is the reality, how to not allow those openings. Yeah. I was giving openings by my daily habits and by exposing vices, pleasure seeking, and immediate gratification, right? Those three things were where I was leaving myself exposed and not keeping my guard up. And this is what I learned later in the Legion, which taught me is how to keep that guard up against those evil attacks, that evil energy, right? And that inverse energy when you're trying to do right and stay clear.
Yeah, I'm super proud that Smith & Wesson Firearms is a supporter of this show. I have been shooting Smith & Wesson Firearms since I was a kid. This is one of America's most patriotic companies that has been around 170 years. The Resilient Show is honored to partner with Smith & Wesson. I personally use Smith & Wesson Firearms every day for my everyday carry. I keep Smith & Wesson Firearms in my home for my home defense. When I'm out on the range practicing, it is a Smith & Wesson at the end of my grip. So check them out, and I hope you join me in carrying one of America's most iconic firearms. What was that process for you? Like you say, you made the decision. I'm going to join the French Foreign Legion, which is crazy, right? Like you hear people say, I went and joined the French Foreign Legion. So you make the decision, but the actual action steps to do that.
Yeah.
What's that like? Like, it's not like going down to the local like strip mall to the Marine Corps recruiter. Like, how do you find a French Foreign Legion recruiter? Like,
man,
what's the process?
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give a little, what the French Foreign Legion, if people aren't aware, is a couple 100-year-old institution in France that was created by an old king to funnel foreigners from a previous war who were in France causing trouble in the bars, out of the bars and back onto the battlefield with the carrot of French citizenship. It was modeled after the old Roman legions, where if you serve your time and you can get French citizenship. So I had become aware of them, I think when I was maybe as a child through, just being in that world and maybe heard of them. And out of college when I was getting turned down by other branches and I was like, found out about the Legion. They take guys with checkered backgrounds. I was like, okay. But I had college loans that my mom had co-signed on and I couldn't just like up chalks and do that. So I really wanted to push the United States stuff, which ended up working out for me. I'm glad I did. But now I had this moment where I go, dude, I got no kids. I got nothing holding me back. I'm 34 at the time, right?
I'm about to jump in a volcano.
I got nothing to lose, which makes somebody a very dangerous man. Nothing to lose, right? I'm ready to already hang it up,
right?
But I'm not hanging up my cleats yet, not on my own accord. So I had no money. So I took 2 fast cash loans out for like $500 for like a bazillion %. It ended up probably costing me 10 grand down the road that I paid off while I was in the Legion. But then I bought a one-way ticket to France, man. Put my truck into somebody's house in Hawaii. I said, just keep it. I'll be back in a few years, baby.
When you flew there, did you have a point of contact or know where you, like with the Legion by that time?
No, because there's only one way to do it. There's no application. There's no anything like that. You have to go show up and knock on the door. And I found through threads of where at least in Paris, there's 2 places to do it. On the east skirts of Paris is a small base called Fort Nogent, which you can do it. And then down south at the headquarter regiment in Aubin, Premier Ray, 1st Regiment Étranger, which is 1st Foreign Regiment. You could do it in 2 places. There's a couple satellite ones on the outskirts of France, but those are just funneling points that take you to these 2 main pre-selection centers. So I was like, all right. So I go fly to France, man. And I got in, it's October again. October is like a powerful time in my life for change. And I remember landing and I had just come from Hawaii and I landed and it's pissing rain. It's gray. It's cold. And I just remember going, what am I doing here? I got no money to my name.
That European gloom
that's very unique if people know what it is. And Paris don't smell great, and I needed to get drugs out of my system. I still had Adderall and weed in my system. So I was like, well, I'm going to burn it out here. So I just cut everything, threw all my stuff in the trash and just started running. And I stayed in some hostels for like €5 a night and just bunking up in like an 8-room hostel and running all day, drinking water and just trying to burn it out. And did that for about a week. Put my black duffel bag and you go and you knock on this like, it's like a medieval castle. It's just small. It's in a neighborhood. It's weird, but it's like on the outskirts. And I took my little train, man, and I got there and I said a prayer. And I actually went up to the Sacré-Cœur, probably pronouncing that terrible. My accent's still terrible. The Sacré-Cœur. And there's this church at the top of this point in Paris. It's a very unbelievable church. And there's like old bricks from the 1600s and stuff and people. And I remember they were singing in the church, and you can walk in there. There's like nobody in there, gargoyles on the outside. And I just looked up and I went, God, just look out for me, man. I'm going to go in there. Let's do this. It's rock and roll. That's what I said. And I ran back and I got my bag and I went and it's this old iron and wood gate. It's a Legion étrangère, Foreign Legion, and knocked on the door, and a Legionnaire, green beret, and a FAMAS. It's like a bullpup. If people aren't aware, it's like unique looking weapon system. And he said, hey, passport. And that's the process. You give him your passport. And I didn't see that passport again for 3 years. I didn't leave France. So I volunteered my passport. This is if you make it. And the first thing I did, this Russian guy, or he's Ukrainian, got me. It was a Sunday night when I went in on the hunter's full moon. It was like kind of poetic. It was raining, and I go in at night on a Sunday. First thing he told me to do is hop up on the pull-up bar. There's a pull-up bar in the middle of the hallway. And then I could see guys down the hallway, like kind of like jail, like they're scoping out who's coming in.
Fresh meat.
Yeah, and they're like, who's coming in? And I cranked out a bunch of pull-ups. He told me to hop down. Then he gave me a preliminary IQ test, searched my bag, and then that was the start of that process. And I went back in the barracks, man, and that was...
When you go through that door, you stayed there.
Yeah, I went through that door and I stayed in there. And it's an interesting, about 1 out of 15 guys that actually come to the door get selected to go to boot camp. So it's a month process of being selected. And it's medical screening, IQ tests, Interpol background checks, psychological evaluations, all physical tests. It takes a month. And the pre-selection center is a lot of medical. And the interviews, they're going, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, why are you here? That's the first thing they need to get, because the known evil is better than the unknown evil. They don't want no sexual crimes, no anything, no issues with arms dealing. That's all no go. And if it's completely, you're out. And there's no, hey, you get a second try. If you fail the pull-ups on the first thing, there's guys that took a boat to a plane to a train from some village in Mexico to there and fail the pull-ups, and they just tell them to fucking leave, man. It's like they don't care. There's no qualms about sending you home.
No, that's not a DEI program.
No, you're out, right? And they're like, hey, come back in 6 months, or they'll just say, don't come back ever. Yeah. They're going BMI and all your teeth, your hair, and they're really going head to toe. But the interview is the biggest part. So the pre-selection, and after I passed the pre-selection, they handed me a note, a sticky pad. And the simplicity of it was quite groundbreaking. And mind you can knock on that door 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. You can go Christmas morning and knock on the door and they'll open it. It's pretty extraordinary, really. In these times in our in history, it's wild that still goes on. But they handed me this note and it said, Trent Clayson, which is my new name. And he said, that's you now.
Which is your initials?
It's my initials. Took my initials. They changed the date of birth. And it was kind of strange because they take your date of birth and they move it. They add a month and a day to both, and that's your new birth date. I'm born on August 10th. Okay. I was born on August 10th. And when I looked at my thing, it said Trent Clayson, born September 11th in New York City. That's what it said. Yeah. Very odd. Yeah. I took it as just a good sign. Yeah. I was like, it's a powerful sign. and that was that's what started, and that's who I was for the next 3 years before I ended up processing my paperwork. But we go down, they put us down to the headquarter regiment on a train, and we start that selection process with they call it the Gestapo interviews, where it's like an interrogation, and it's heavy for about 2 weeks.
And what they trying to? They're trying to just.
They're like, you're lying. You know, why is a Navy SEAler? They don't want issues with the United States government. Mm-hmm. Also, I had brought my DD-214 just for the leadership, so they knew who I was, and then I wasn't really trying to hide anything, and to verify I was who I was. Mm. So they had that paperwork.
Why is a Navy SEAL coming?
What's that?
They're like, why is a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, why is he here? Like, why would you come here from a SOF unit? And I told them, well, I ruined my life. I need a fucking second chance, man. That's what I told them. And they were like, all right, it checks out. I wasn't lying about why I got kicked out. I told them what was up. And, times I've been arrested. This is the Foreign Legion, man. This isn't the Boy Scouts, right? It was created for the robbers and thieves. And that was kind of it's not like that anymore, less, but tattoo regs aren't. what they are here. I mean, you got guys coming in from some holes in Russia with heads, full faces tattooed and stuff.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting seeing a guy in a military uniform with a head blasted. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
But you see it over there and it looks pretty cool. I will say it's pretty unique that they actually do that. But that was the process, and it was an intense feeling of uncertainty. I was still really reeling from everything I had lost. I was still in that wake of, oh my gosh, dude, like I was here and now I'm here, and what's this? What if they don't pick me up? What if they do pick me up? I had no, if they would have told me to leave, I had cut my credit cards up in the trash can before I walked in. I had burned the boats, man. I had no way to get home. I think I was going to have to like stow away on a ship or something to get home. Like I had no money, nothing, but it just for whatever reason, it just made sense for me to do at the time.
Yeah. So you passed the Gestapo interview, and is boot camp next?
Yeah, boot camp's next, and the Gestapo interview was interesting. These guys are fascinating too. They're like,
First of all, they interviewing you.
They're interviewing me in English.
Okay.
These guys, dude, they speak like 5 languages, and they're young, high-ranking senior enlisted guys, like dudes that made Master Chief fast. Like that unique kind of individual is there, and they speak tons of languages. And one of the tall dude, he had like tattoos coming up his neck. Good looking dude. I think he was from Moldova or something. And he looks at me and he goes, after they take me through like 3 days of, they gave me a lot of extra love, 3 days of this interrogation. He goes, look, we're going to give you a contract. He's like, but you need to know there's going to be some young corporal who's going to be yelling at you, telling you how to shoot, telling you to clean toilets, and you're going to be able to do that, man? I said, yeah, man, I'll just give me an opportunity to get in here and do it. I'll do it. And he said, okay, well, it's going to be hard. And he was right. It was a baptism in humility, a baptism.
Well, and I don't know how it works. So this is a question. The French, do the French citizens act in the leadership of the French Foreign Legion, or
they do,
or the foreigners are leader?
That's a good. The NCOs are mostly foreigners.
Okay,
NCOs are mostly foreigners. Officers are French, almost exclusively. So
are they from the French military, or
they go to the Saint Cyr?
Okay,
they're like West Point.
So they're kind of appointed to manage the foreigners coming in to serve in the Legion.
It's like a feather in the cap for them. It's like a esteemed duty station to come, like all the higher ranking, all the guys that stack well at the academy request to go to the Foreign Legion, man, because it's kind of edgy.
You're leading a bunch of foreign.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of edge to it. And I mean, it was created, let's be quite honest, as the cannon fodder for France, man. So you don't have the political pressure of French coming back in body bags.
Yeah.
The Foreign Legion has fought in every war since from Algeria to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
For France. They've been getting after it for a really long time. And it's
I've seen them in Afghanistan.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I saw Legionnaires patrolling in Afghanistan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a unique thing because you're all these foreigners and you're flying the French flag on your shoulder. It's pretty cool. 150 nations are represented in the Foreign Legion.
Are you expected to know any French at all? Like, or they teach you?
They don't expect you to know French.
Okay.
But they expect you to learn it pretty damn quick.
I mean, they're not. I'm assuming they're not accommodating to you not speaking French.
No, they understand that you don't learn French, but from the get-go, if they hear you speaking English, it's an issue, right? You're going to get some extra EMI and EMT, and they have structured courses. Mm-hmm. They're quick and they're packed with pain.
And they do it at the academy at the boot camp?
At the boot camp phase. Okay. They start taking you in, and you have a book, and here's French, and here's how you conjugate, and get out there and be somebody, and you learn a lot of it on the fly. And it's interesting because it's like this petri dish of international languages. So you have French mixed with Polish, mixed with a lot of Russian. Like my French has a Russian accent because that's who I learned from. Learned from a lot because 10% of the Foreign Legion is Ukrainian. So it's a high percentage of Ukrainians, high percentage of Brazilians, high percentage of Nepali. Right? Guys from Nepal. That's probably the biggest chunks. And then you have South Africans and some of the other, and like one American. You have a handful of Americans.
How long is the boot camp?
4 months.
4 months.
And mind you, the Foreign Legion it's infantry, right? It's highly trained infantry. It's not,
So it's 4 months of boot camp / infantry school.
yeah, it's infantry school. And so the Foreign Legion just in general is it's like a one-stop shop. They have their own cavalry, 7,000 guys. 7,000 guys, just internationally. That's how big the unit is. And they're stationed from Tahiti to South America to wherever. But they have their own cavalry, parachute regiment, engineering regiments, infantry, mountain specialty, which is like where I was. And then a lot of your administration stuff, but all their medical staff, all of their logistics, supplies, meals, is all in-house. They're all Foreign Legionnaires. And so it's like a one-stop shop that the French can just kind of put places.
They recognize your, on the uniform, did they recognize any of your qualifications here?
They don't no.
Like
no,
your parachute.
I heard you can put the jump wings on, but it's like pretty hard to get the paperwork through on that.
Yeah. They wouldn't throw a trident on there though.
No, they weren't taking the trident, man. And I wouldn't want to, right? I wanted gray man.
Yeah.
Because I stick out enough anyway. And the Foreign Legion is a very disciplined unit, is military bearing. I would say it's similar to the Marine Corps in terms of military bearing, like presentation, walking in through every door. You're saluting every officer, every NCO. Everything is very formal. You walk across the grass wrong, they're going to put you in jail. And the jails there on the Foreign Legion bases are like, you're doing yard work all day. And then when you wake up, you have to grab like a 10 kilo, 15 kilo rock and go run a 10K around the base.
You know, I got asked now, you've been in jail so many times before. Did you mess up and get put in
Never
jail?
once. Never once. But I did get some interesting extra attention.
Okay.
And we were running, and the Legion loves to run, right? That's like one of their things. They are cardio monsters. And I was pulling the back of the pack, just keeping up. But we were doing these, like, they just wake up and do half Ks and half marathons and just in boots in the snow. And I was coming in kind of last, so I was kind of sticking out. And then we march in, and one of the colonels, very formal, very stiff dude, and I'm marching. And I don't know if anybody's seen the Foreign Legion march. Have you seen it?
No.
It's fascinating, and you should if you see a clip of it.
I'm
but
gonna look.
They march the slowest out of anybody in the French military. It's like
Okay.
everybody else is however many paces, and the Legion's very slow. There's like some historical reason for it. But I was apparently marching with a little too much swag. Mm-hmm. I thought I was doing really well, actually. But the colonel noticed me, tattoos and stuff, and I go back to our company, and I'm kind of getting ready for the day, and I get called down to the office, and people are screaming at me, right? Screaming, and mixed with Russian and Romanian, and I'm getting yelled at. I'm dropped in the push-up position. I'm like, what the hell is going on? They're screaming at me. Like, I'd never really caused a lot of issues. I'm going, what the hell's going on?
You don't understand them.
No, I do understand them, and I know they're not happy. Mm-hmm. And they say the colonel called. He said, "L'Américain avec le tatouage, il marche comme merde." He marches like shit. He called the company, and that's like sacrilege, right? The colonel calls. It's all bad news. So my punishment was, it was December, and we're up in the mountains, man. We're up in like South France, but in higher elevation. And they go, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to stack a pyramid with rocks as tall as you. Mind you, there's no rocks. We're like a place with no rocks. It's hailing, it's snowing, it's like kind of rain and ice. And so I go, okay. So I go out with a backpack. It took me 3 days, 16, 17 hours a day to collect these rocks. I had to walk 10 minutes and put 3 rocks in my backpack and walk back. It took me 3 full days to stack this thing in the rain and the snow, a 6 foot tall pyramid with a 6 foot tall base. So just to give you an example, right? It was marching poorly, 3 days of stacking rocks into a pyramid is what I got. And that pyramid was still there.
Oh, I thought the answers would be like, when you were done, you're like, I'm done. Okay, go put them back.
Nope, still there. There's pyramids. And that's kind of a punishment in the Foreign Legions. They make guys stack pyramids, and it has to be a good pyramid. If you go to a Foreign Legion base, you'll see pyramids everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. In the front of the base, everywhere, there's pyramids everywhere with rocks.
So I want to go back to boot camp. What was Legion boot camp like? I mean, I mean, of course, there's physical fitness and you're learning infantry tactics and stuff, but I mean, what was it like as far as you talked about it humbling you?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you were a what, E6 Navy SEAL
Yeah.
sniper. I mean, you're reaching a point of being respected. Now you go very respected, by the
Yeah.
way. Like now you're going back to cleaning toilets and having some probably 25-year-old kid telling you what to do. Like, what was that like?
It was very powerful. It was a really powerful experience. The first place they send you is called the farm. And the farm is exactly that. They take you towards it's in the French Pyrenees, so on the Spanish border, and there's this farm for each individual company. There's like 4 companies, 4 different farms. And there's obstacle courses. You're out in the woods doing land navigation and all this stuff, sleeping outside, very minimal gear, very, very cold. It was wintertime, very cold, a lot of running. And I remember looking up at like planes going over and going, I wonder where they're going, man. I'm like, what am I doing out here? 34, right? Doing shoot, move, and communicate with guys that have never been in the military, some of them, where I was doing halos. And also we'd go out the range, we'd shoot, they'd see me manipulate the weapon and kind of see, and they're like, oh, okay, guess what? Clean this fucking toilet, until you could eat off it. And at first it was really challenging. And that went on for years, mind you. That wasn't just boot camp. That carries on in the Foreign Legion for your first 2-3 years until you really start. It takes that long to kind of get rank. So your shark shit on the bottom of the ocean for a long time, and doing that every day because the cleaning and all that stuff doesn't end even in boot camp. It's the same. And I started to, and this is where I started to develop this, I guess, kind of Zen, man. And I started reading Zen proverbs and really diving into, because I get to this point, I'm in this Foreign Legion barracks room after boot camp, and we're learning, some simple moves, and we do the Kepi Blanc march, and it's a 60-kilometer march back, and it's powerful. I'm marching through these French countryside, and I'm starting to kind of come to grasp of where I'm at, of the decisions that led me to this point. And I knew it was going to be painful, and I had a lot more, but I knew whatever I was doing was powerful, man. I knew it was unique, and I knew I was picking my pen up and writing my story again. And I was like, you know what? At least this is going to be an interesting story.
Yeah.
That's at least that. Now, what can I learn from it? But as I carried that on and I, started doing deployments and doing some different stuff, I realized what was next? What's next? Ukraine kind of kicks off. I'm looking at Mercenary World and all this stuff. And I just had this moment where I go, I'm still not happy. Like, I did this, but what's it all for? Then I realized, I go, oh, I'm the common denominator here. But more importantly, I need to start connecting with a higher purpose, connecting with what is my commitment to excellence. It's not just some external thing. I need to really dive into this. So I started reading, man, about, Musashi and samurai philosophers and Greeks and Stoics, and just really started diving into more of the psychological space and Zen proverbs, and like, what lesson is all this to teach me, and getting connected more with, like, what does God want for me? What is this path? And I realized your commitment to excellence is going to directly proportional to your quality of life. And you can't go have a bad weekend and then get back to zero. I'm like, dude, when is times that I have been clear and felt aligned, right? Mm-hmm. That conscience congruency, right? That authentic voice of God, right? It's telling us to go left or right. It's usually very clear, especially when we eliminate the noise. And once I eliminated the noise, it was saying, get up early, train more than these guys are doing. Like, hold yourself to a higher standard, moral standard too. Like, not having sex with chicks on the weekends, like, not all that stuff. I was still kind of dipping, still kind of honing it in, but
because the lifestyle of the Legion is you're
pirate.
I mean, you work all week and then you get the weekends off. Like, you're not free during the week.
No, they're not free during the week. It's completely barracks driven. For the first 5 years, you can't live off base.
Okay.
So it's you're checking in when you leave the company. You're marching in lines to eat. There's no autonomy at all. So you're very, very locked on.
And and by the way, I mean, for clarity, you contractually obligated to that. You forfeited your passport.
You're contractually obligated. You don't even have a passport to leave.
Yeah.
So we deployed to South America, doing deep jungle operations for like 4 months. Amazing experience, powerful, hard. But all this time I was grateful to be working and stuff. And during all this time I'm going, okay, now I'm starting to like fast, even in the jungle, like intermittent fasting and doing like just starting to take deliberate action with these things, and not like kind of like disciplined-ish was always like really dangerous for me.
Well, that's the reason I was asking. I was asking that specifically because there's external discipline and there's internal discipline, right? External discipline is imposed on you by drill instructor, the police, rules, authority, law, the Legion, right? But internal discipline is different. It's the discipline you have that no one's imposing on you. You're making a choice to impose discipline on yourself, and now you're starting to have both of them. You have clearly you have external discipline from the Legion, but now you're starting to have some internal discipline and making decisions that you don't need to do.
And that internal discipline is the only thing that matters.
Right.
Only thing that matters, right? Because the external discipline's going to leave at some time. And it's also, it needs to be your decision or it doesn't matter at all.
Just like when you left the Navy. The external discipline went away. You didn't have the internal discipline.
Well said. Yep. It's a really good point. I've never really framed it that clearly. It's exactly what it was. And so now, even with this external, really powerful discipline, I was like, it's not enough. Not enough. So they're waking up at 5:30. I'm getting up at 3:30. I'm doing slight deliberate mornings in the bathroom, prayer, like getting connected with a higher frequency, mindfulness, increasing my mindfulness, trying to increase my consciousness about understanding what was I doing wrong that kept me breaking down my life. Why? Obviously, the way I interpret and move through the world's not correct. So I have to challenge that. And that's really and so to do that, I started implementing some certain things to kind of make that a little bit easier for me to do.
What was South America like? What were you guys doing there, first of all?
It was the Wild West. I had no idea what was going on down there. Zero. A lot of people don't know France has territory down in South America. It's called Guyane Francais, French Guyane. And it's just east of Venezuela, just north of Brazil. Like there's a few Guyanes right in the middle. So this was right on the border of Suriname where we were actually employed. We flew out there and then took a small riverboat, 8 hours, a smaller base. So now we're on an outpost on the Suriname border doing interdiction to drug operations. There are boats coming in and out, but really interdiction to illegal gold mining. So I didn't understand how much gold's down there, a ton. And I thought we'd hit a gold mine every now and then. We would do 14-day operations and hit at one every day, every single day. You can't arrest anybody. You can't use your marching in the jungle. So you'd have to catch and release, destroy the equipment, burn everything down. I was the one jumping in the Mercury Lakes because I'm the Navy SEAL. I pretty much glow in the dark now. They're like, hey, Navy SEAL, go in there and get the pumps out, drag the diesel engines out, drag the hoses out. So I'd be diving into these lakes that are just, who knows what's going on. I never got COVID though, so it must be something. But it was an interesting experience, and I was grateful to be down there. Carrying a chainsaw and just going through I really like jungle work personally. It's like a very good pace for me. I enjoy that type of. But I mean, drink water purification tablets. You can't carry enough water, so water purification tablets, and just eating MREs, and that was how we were getting down, sleeping in hammocks and doing that whole thing.
Yeah. How long the deployments were? 4
months usually.
I guess it really doesn't matter really because you don't have a life. You don't have a life anyway, right?
Man, I was coming back. I was like, man, just grateful to be there. And the pay is about triple, right? So they do a good job of compensating you. It's not great, but it's a lot better than you're making, elsewhere. Happy to be working, and you're still in the Foreign Legion though. It's still pretty strict day-to-day operations. They run a pretty tight ship, even on outposts.
Do you kind of a big rumor is that people join the Legion to get French citizenship? What's the accuracy behind that?
You have to sign up for a second contract. So finishing your 5 years, they'll give you a residence card for France, which gives you ability to work in Europe for 10 years. But if you want to naturally get a French citizenship, you'll do a minimum of 7 or 8. You'll take the tests. You'll do the stuff. You have to have good conduct and all these things. And then that's how that works.
Okay.
But it's very, I didn't need it or want it.
Right.
And so guys that are coming from Eastern Bloc countries and some other countries that they don't have the visas, man, they can't travel. Like we forget how great, how in a good position we are to be able to travel to countries.
The American passport is one of the most
powerful
tools.
We take it, people take it for granted if you haven't, but I'll tell you some interesting characters in the Legion, that powerful resiliency, being resilient. There was this kid from Kenya, man. This is an amazing story. He was in my boot camp in the Foreign Legion. He wanted to leave Kenya. He just did not want to live there anymore. And trying to go in the Foreign Legion is almost impossible because they can't get a visa. They can't get a visa there. So he goes, all right, well, how do I get to Europe?
Can they illegally immigrate to go there and knock on that door?
No, I mean, you can, but even flying there is very challenging to get there.
But if they snuck in and knocked on a door, would they get?
Well, I'm about to tell you how he did this.
Okay,
this is fascinating because you can, and there are a lot of people like that. Yeah. But he goes, all right, well, how do I get out of Kenya and fly into Europe and like actually do this? So they're like, well, what are we, Kenyan? We can run, right? So he started training for marathons. And he's tall. He wasn't even that good a runner, but he just got trained for, I think, 2-3 years and became one of the top, not top guys in Kenya, but for at least his area to get to a race in Europe, in France. So he signed up for this race, gets there and goes, later, doesn't even do the race and goes right to the Foreign Legion. So that's just an interesting, running next to that dude was very humbling. It was a very humbling experience running next to a dude like that. But impressive. I heard a dude walk from Romania. That was another one I heard. Walked with no passport because he had no passport. And the Legion was like, you don't have a passport, but we're impressed you made it here. So they made it work. So there were some interesting tales of, being resilient and just having that mindset that you're just not going to take no for an answer. And through all these periods, you're meeting guys from Korea, guys from other foreign militaries, guys who've done a lot of stuff, guys who are actually pretty damn good, right? Shooting, moving, communicating.
Was it? You were Navy SEAL, so you've had some of the best training. Mm-hmm. How was the training? Was it quality? What'd you say?
For me, it's a hard thing to compare because I'm training special operations training with infantry training, right? So they're just money, rounds. You can't fake rounds at the range. It's expensive. And so just the quantity of the actual shooting is a lot less, right? And also they're giving you very basic movement commands. It's very basic movements, right? So the training's not as good. It's definitely nothing like I think we're used to in the United States, just money wise, so they make it work. But what they don't have in hey, here's the money, they make up for in grit and teaching you how to be tough, man. They teach you how to be tough, teach you how to be mentally sharp. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a blizzard. It doesn't matter if it's pissing rain. You're getting up and you're running. It's happening, right? It doesn't matter how cold it is.
No black flag days for
they would laugh. Yeah. And I would say it's the last bastion of anti-wokeness. Yeah. I heard more racist jokes, more this, more that. They saw some of the stuff going on in the United States. They were like, Sequasa, what is this? What's going on over there? Just because you're trying to explain to some Romanian, about this or that, and they'd go, they don't get it.
Yeah.
And nor should they. It's a very kind of refreshing in that capacity. It's just, you're either good or you're not. And it's as simple as that.
So how did all that come to an end for you?
So we did the deployment down in South America. Then we did kind of a Vigiparat anti-terrorism domestic mission. And then we did some stuff with NATO up in, and then I came back, man, and was running the last 6 months of I was doing my Twilight tour. I had screened for a commando unit there, which they have 2 commando units. And I failed one of the run tests.
Which is their special operations.
Yeah, I would call it a highly trained shock force, more like Rangers. It's like Rangers. That's what I would call it, something like that. And I failed one of their run tests, man. And it was and I'm 37, 38 at the time and the test was just too fast, man. I couldn't do it. It was at altitude, and it was a 5-mile run at altitude and weight and stuff, dude. And I just could not make the time, and I failed it hard, like failed it hard, man. And I was in decent shape too, like run shape. And I went, okay, well, I'm going to take this. And I was kind of on my back burner anyway. I didn't want to re-up. I was ready for the autonomy back. And during this period, mind you, I had realized something. Now I had like years of like good days every day, really locked on, like tracking my food, you know, reading scripture, reading philosophy, really disciplined days, very focused. And so I felt damn good. And I realized, man, I'm proud of myself just off my daily habits. That's it.
Yeah.
And holding myself to like higher moral standard and understanding that closed doors, open doors, it all matters. There's no, somebody's watching all the time, man. You know, I know, God knows. And that maintaining of the higher frequency and not doing things that caused me shame and guilt was a massive piece. And rising above that guilt shame loop that a lot of people get caught in. And when I experienced that and I really had this clarity and I sat down and I went, and now I'm in a barracks room. Mind you, I was in the hospital. Actually, I had a medial calf tear up in the mountains. So I'm in the hospital and they're trying to like look and see my calf. I was fine, but I was in the hospital for like 6 weeks in a French military hospital. And I'm sitting there and I go, man, I've been offline for years. I've been, almost half a decade at this point. And I was suicidal in my truck, and now I'm happy even in a foreign military hospital. Yeah. Great days every day. I was like, dude, if I can make that arc, I bet I could tell that story and it could help somebody. And I saw other people, doing coaching and stuff online. I'm like, dude, I could do this better. I know I have a better message, and I can show people how to feel good, get that mojo back. I fucking lost my mojo, man. And I know a lot of men and women, you feel like you're walking through quicksand and can't get out of your own way. And I totally get that. And I'm like, I fixed it with doing these things. And it was hitting the pillars that you talked about. It's faith, family, fitness, finance. Mm-hmm. It's what it is, right? And that's really the pillars of what it is. And if any of those are out of whack, it's like pits in the ground and they cause a gravitational pull. If your family's all out of whack, it's going to suck your whole life into it. Your finances, your faith, your fitness, it's going to pull everything else down. They say, oh, you can't I go, success across the board, the only thing that matters. And this is what I really started to just believe and know at my core when I'm in this Foreign Legion barracks room going, man, I feel damn good even here. So I put the camera down and I told the story. And even if you see on my YouTube, I'm in a Foreign Legion barracks room from my story one. And I just sent a stream of consciousness talk about where I was, suicidal, this and that. And I'm former Navy SEAL in a French Foreign Legion. And this was my redemption arc, man. And this is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I put it online, put it on YouTube. And it exploded. It was like 600,000 views in a few weeks. And I was getting, and that was, first upload ever did anything. And I had hundreds of emails from Marines and this and guys going, dude, I was sitting in my car with a gun and your video came up and I decided not to kill myself. So I really appreciate you doing that. But like hundreds of emails. And I went, wow. And it was just this moment where I went, oh, I realized what all my pain was for. That my story wasn't my own.
Yeah.
That it was helpful to people. Whether I don't think I'm anything spectacular. It's just a story that is just an example that you can pull yourself out of things. I'm just a conduit of information. And I'm packaged for somebody to understand it. And I was getting a lot of messages. So I said, all right, I'm going to keep doing this. And I just started posting these stories about stream of consciousness and things that I learned and lessons learned. And it was fine until it got big. And this was a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. Mind you, it was a couple weeks that this was going on. And I was on the back few months of my contract with the Foreign Legion. But the Foreign Legion, DPLE, it's like their bureau. Mm-hmm. They're like NCIS or whatever they are. They're like, hey, take it all down now, right? And it wasn't an issue until it got big in a few weeks. And because there's guys that post online and stuff, they're not like super strict on that, but they just didn't like that they was getting a lot of hit play. And I said, I just had this moment where I'm like, I knew it was a higher purpose, and there was I wasn't taking it down for anybody. And it was too important. I was like, absolutely not. So I got a lawyer, a French lawyer, and I'm like, look, do I have any like play here with this? And they were fighting. We played like an admin battle, and they said, look, if you're not taking it down, then we're going to put you in jail for 4 months and then until we kick you out. So it was going to be a wash. We're putting you on food discipline. Right?
Oh, because you're still...
I'm still active, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I'm like almost done. But I'm like kind of transitioning out, but I'm in this weird area where I'm just moving trucks around and stuff till I finish paperwork. And so they're like, look, how about this? If you're not going to take it down, I talked to my attorney. He goes, dude, you're not a French citizen. They don't have anything on you. They can keep you there. And it's kind of illegal what they do as the jail. It's very gray. You have no legal standing in the country. You're this, you're that. He's like, just tell them to break the contract with you. If they're not going to have an issue with it, you're not going to have an issue with it. And so that was it. So right before my 5 years, I was done. They said, all right, irreconcilable differences. And we were done. That was it.
You get a plane ticket? They give you your passport back?
Yeah, and I got a plane ticket. I got my passport back. So I had a couple of years of my real name operating. And people will say, man, that's an asterisk. You didn't finish that clean either. I said, this is life, man. It's not a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Shit doesn't, a lot of guys, we got a lot of guys, things don't always just ride off into the sunset. But I'll tell you what, I learned exactly what I needed to learn. And now I've worked with hundreds, thousands of people, bringing them from suicidal to very, very successful family, marriages, and business. And that's my purpose, man. And every day I'm relentless in it.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that, right? And I'll take that hit. And I'm fine with that criticism. But I knew that there was a higher purpose. People can call it what it is, but I know what it was and how clear it was for me that I could not divert off this path, whatever it was, right? And that it was not about me anymore. It was about me sharing my message in a very clear, direct way so that other people could resonate with it and change themselves. That was it.
You ever read the book Tender Warrior?
No, I like the title though.
Yeah, it's a great title. It's written by a Green Beret Vietnam veteran. I think 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart in Vietnam. His name's Stu Weber, and he writes in the book. He says the things that you battle with are in the heart of every man, and so we all kind of have similar battles, right? And we think we're unique in those, and very important when you have these kind of life lessons like you've had to use them as tools to share to help others. And when people do it, it's very impactful. And this is what my friend Brandon says: you take your mess and make it God's message.
I love that.
And committed your life to that. I mean, you never know the impact you're going to have. You on this side of eternity, you'll never know the impact because you don't know who's listening, right? You get the emails and stuff like that, but you have no idea who's listening. So you'll never know on this side of eternity the impact you have. But if you feel a burden or call to do that, then I would encourage you to keep going, man. I've seen that video you're talking about. It's a powerful message, and I think you're just getting started in that message. So,
well, I appreciate that. What have you seen, Chad, in your work with guys? Like people talk about purpose a lot, right? Just lack of purpose, especially getting out of the military and stuff. Yeah. What have you seen is the root of that purposelessness?
Well, I think so. For me, I think people seek purpose in things that they want to do. You see this in ministry, right? People love. I do jiu-jitsu. People love jiu-jitsu. They have grappling for Jesus, right? Like all these different things that are like self-fulfilling. And so I think that's where people feel like very unfulfilled. And so I think it's humbly going back to the core and the age-old question, right? What's the meaning of life? People it's some kind of mystery. Well, It's not a mystery at all. Revelations 4:11 says, "For thy pleasure they are and they were created." Right? We were created for one purpose and one purpose only, to please God.
Yeah.
And so in everything you do, whether it's being a janitor or a Navy SEAL or a Legionnaire or a life coach, like our purpose is to please God. So if you try to operate outside that purpose for self-fulfillment, you're always going to feel like you're empty and you don't feel purpose. And there's this discontentment that comes over you. And you've seen it your whole career, whether you noticed it or not. And there's no level of achievement you'll ever get. You pass one school, that's fulfilled. You feel accomplished. You're on a mountaintop high. Okay, that's not enough. What's next?
Yeah.
What's next? Like, you're never going to fulfill it through any worldly accolades. It can't be filled. You look at any successful person; they're never content, right? If they're basing it on achievements, goals, occupations, they're just never. The people that are most content in this world are people who have strong pillars of faith and live according to their purpose for God and pleasing God. So yeah, the Bible says it clear, for thy pleasure, for God's pleasure, they are and they were created. We were created to please God in whatever we do. Now, what that really means to me is, instead of inviting God into our plan, we need to be a part of His plan.
Yes.
Right. And there's different ways you can do that, because we all were born with different gifts and talents and abilities. Not everybody was made the same. And so I think it's a combination of finding your gifts and talents, the things that you're good at, the thing you feel your heart is burdened for, and then aligning that with the things that you feel. How could you honor and please God and glorify God in those things? So for me, my history, my past, the gifts and talents that God gave me, and the things God burdens my heart for, I take all those things and I say, if I do this, will I honor, glorify, and please God in doing those? And if the answer is yes, then
that's a great question.
Yeah. So
it's interesting in that pleasing of God, like what pleases God. It's an interesting question. I never really heard that passage in Revelations, but it's my approach to that would be this commitment to excellence and this self-actualization of becoming the best man or woman you could be. And then that transcending of self, right? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to be this whole filled person so that achieve the correct things in the right ways with the right morality and the right compass, so that you can show others how to do the same. That's aligned with that divine design, right? That has God, that God has planned for us, and on that path, and that purpose-driven divine path is very powerful. And then walking on it as this whole person and showing others the way. Yeah. That's what I see, is like just true fulfillment to the deepest core.
Yeah. And purpose creates fulfillment, right? Because I believe we were created to have purpose. We weren't created just to exist. God didn't create us that. We were created to have purpose, to be world changers and kingdom builders and to make an impact. We were created to be producers, not consumers. Like most people live as consumers. We're meant to be. So if you're not producing, then you're going to feel a hopelessness and a purposelessness and feel discontentment and all those things. One of my favorite quotes, and I say this quote all the time, is that's my favorite quote, and I'm stumped for it. The two most important days in a person's life are the day that they're born and the day that they find out why. And finding your purpose and understanding what it is, man, when you find that, when you click into that, you become unstoppable, like a fire's lit inside of you. Kind of where you are right now, right? You're like, I'm not taking that down. Like, I have a purpose. It's very clear what I want to do, and taking that down gets in the way of that. So I'm not taking it down, right? That's just no way. Yeah. I had never had anything so clearly shown to me before. Mm-hmm.
It was so apparent that there was nothing. I mean, an asteroid could have hit me and I wouldn't have changed anything. It was so powerful, and I haven't lost that. And so here's the things, Chad, that I learned there, because we talk about those evil attacks. Mm-hmm. How do I keep those at bay, right? How have I corrected that? Well, first, realizing that it's never fully corrected. So you have to stay vigilant. Mm. So I was like, okay, well, what I started doing in that Foreign Legion barracks room, I still do now in my house on the golf course. Mm-hmm. I still get up at 3:30 in the morning and do push-ups in the fucking bathroom. My fiance's like, dude, but since we started dating, that was just what it was, and I haven't changed anything. Work, the repetition. We talk about the consistency on the message and the content and staying aligned with it, and the physical exercise and the mindfulness and the constant checking of my ego. Make sure I'm not getting ahead of my skis, not getting wrapped up in overly complicating my life, right? Keeping things simple and clear. And because I have, anger, things inside me. I don't know if it's Irish or what it is, but I just, a fire inside me that I have got to check, right? And keeping vices at bay and just staying very, very focused on the things that matter and erasing a lot of noise, because destiny, God doesn't shout. whispers. You can't hear it with the noise and the distractions and this and then that. And people who aren't, and I would say a couple tools, something that would be helpful if people aren't doing, like, where do I start in like trying down this path of getting better? When you wake up in the morning, don't look at your phone. When you wake up in the morning, take 30 minutes. Get up earlier than you want to. Take 30 minutes and practice mindfulness, whether prayer, some reading, or just sitting, right? It's foundational to psychological health, and being tapped into that higher God frequency is, you're not doing it in your car. You're not doing it when you can always kind of stay, but you need quiet connectivity. It's very, very powerful and so important. I would say when somebody starts doing that, do that for a few weeks and watch how the momentum starts to lift in your life.
Yeah. By the way, if anybody was wondering, Mark Twain was that quote.
I dig it.
Two most important days in a person's life: day you're born and day you find out why. And where you're talking, happy St. Patrick's Day. It was yesterday, right? Yeah. Yesterday, you're Irish. And not yesterday when this episode comes out, but as we're recording, St. Patrick's Day was yesterday.
There we go.
See, Conor McGregor spoke at the White House.
I did.
Yeah. From the, I was surprised they let that guy get on the microphone at the from the White House press secretary. Let him get the microphone.
That was like, they're rolling the dice.
Yeah.
All right.
I know he could have said anything. There's no telling what he was going to say.
I saw McGregor talking to Trump. He goes,
I'm apologizing.
It's inspiring. It's bloody inspiring. Inspiring.
Yeah, they did it, and he didn't do bad. He didn't embarrass himself. He held himself together. Good for him. Man. So I want to ask you on this show, right? This is the Resilience Show. If you look on the Rootus there, we have four grooves on the handle. That's for the 4 pillars of resiliency: mind, body, spirit, and social. You said this several times throughout talking. If you noticed it or not, you actually hit all these. In order to be resilient, in order to be able to combat those attacks of the enemy, the spiritual world. By the way, if you're listening and you're not a believer in God and you don't align with what I believe or what we're talking about here, it doesn't matter. Like, you're still in a spiritual war, right? Where you choose to believe or not. Just like you may not believe there's oxygen, and in fact, you're breathing it, right? In order to be able to resist those spiritual attacks, you have to be prepared in all 4 of these pillars.
Absolutely.
Mind, body, spirit, and social, right? You have to be mentally, have the right perspective, the right attitude, the right wisdom and knowledge base. Physically, you have to be physically strong, healthy, inside and out. Socially, you have to be able to surround yourself with the right people and have that good community. And spiritually, you have to have a strong spiritual relation. For me, it's through a relationship with Jesus and my Christian faith to be. So how important would you say it is to be well-rounded in all 4 of these pillars in order to be resilient and able to have purpose and be impactful in this world?
Yeah, I think we talk about an idea that I've been playing with in my mind recently, and I actually had a client, a successful guy. Mark, what's going on, brother? He talked about success versus significance. Mm-hmm. And I really like this because, you can be successful, but what does that mean? Is that money? Is that numbers on a screen? Is that, successful in what capacity? But significance, right? Significance is something different. Some would argue you need both maybe to be significant, but significance is a all-encompassing word of like, man, if somebody's significant, it's somebody that's inspiring. It's very hard to be inspired by somebody that's completely out of shape. Very hard for me personally, because you're missing something. There's some level of discipline.
That's why I never could get into Buddhism. It's like I'm supposed to listen to this guy, like a little fat guy, like can't listen to him.
It's not inspiring to me, right? Potentially some lessons to be learned or something that you could take from it, but it's not inspiring to me, and you're not going to follow that guy into combat, right? Or when the devil comes knocking at the door, and also there's this misunderstanding that you can't be 100% in all areas. People are like, oh, you need to give some. Why? I don't believe that. Why can't everything be 100%? You're 100%. Why can't your relationship with your family, your faith, your fitness, and your finances be all solid? You don't need to give here to get there. And that has been something that I absolutely am so rooted in striving for, and talking and pushing everyone else that I work with to understand is that you need to be solid at there's no room for slacking off anywhere. That's done. That's done. Maybe back in the day you can kind of have money, and no, not anymore. I don't know if it's just evolution, but now you have to be solid everywhere. I'm not impressed by a guy who's got money and a shitty family life. Doesn't do it for me, or has got no faith or no deeper purpose. It's not inspiring to me. Mm-hmm. So I think it's absolutely mandatory. If you want impact and significance in your life, bro, you got to cover down on every single piece, because that one piece that you're not covering down on, that's where the devil gets into. That's where that negativity starts diving into.
Yeah, I just spoke this past weekend at Marine Corps Boot Camp. I'm very privileged. For the last 10 years, I get to go every quarter and speak to the recruits there on spiritual resiliency, and I break down the 4 pillars of resiliency, and one of the things to talk about is exactly what you just said. Like, each of those pillars need 100%. And an analogy I use, I'll pull a chair up, and or a stool, and with 4 legs. Say each of these 4 legs represent one of these pillars: mind, body, spirit, and social. Now, that chair just sitting there, if one of those legs were weak, and maybe even one of them the leg was cracked, like, you can't see it, and it's kind of like we say on the surface, like, hey, are you good, mind, body, spirit? So you're like, yeah. You can't see the crack, but it's there. So that chair is sitting there holding itself up. But if somebody sits in it and one of those legs have a crack in it and they're weak and they're not 100%, right, it's going to break and you're going to go crashing down. So all 4 of those need to be 100%. And for individuals, and that's the challenge I give these recruits, I flew there by myself, went there to be before them, gave my time. I said, I'm asking one thing of you in return. Spend 3 minutes today and give an honest inventory of yourself. Or are you giving 100%? Are you 100% in mind, body, spirit, social? If not, no big deal. Like, now you did the first, you identified.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% here. Maybe I'm 100%. I'm putting everything I can in my physical. I'm motivated. I have the right attitude. Socially, and maybe I'm listening to some bad influences. I'm not 100% there. Spiritually, I haven't taken that seriously. Well, when the weight comes on, those are the 2 that's going to go out. You need to be intentional about fixing it. Yeah. First thing is identifying it, then be intentional about fixing it. And that's it sounds. I think we make it more complicated than it is. But if we're honest with ourselves, we know where we're weak, and we could be intentional about fixing those. I want to say too that you mentioned the success to significance thing. I've heard this before through some pretty profound people that have been inspiring to me, and they talk about this to success to significance, and I've heard it explained that they had their success, and now they want to use that success to be significant. And the way I view that and break that down is success is for you, and significance is outward.
Damn, that's good.
Right.
I like that.
So your success is about you, and it's okay to invest in yourself and be successful, but then you use that success to be significant for others. And get back. That's kind of how I've heard. I've very successful people, and it's I've kind of picked up that from seeing them. I know, yeah.
And the intentionality is something that, when you hit on that, is the root of everything I talk about. And it's the intentionality of what you're doing, how you're waking up, how you're thinking, what you're consuming. Right? Are you not just your diet, but your psychological diet? Right. Or you look at pornography, all these things that really tear people down. Right? Are you really holding the line on your best self? Be honest. And when I got real with that, I'm like, no, I'm not. I think I'm doing, but then I'm doing all this weird shit. And that was when I decided to fix that. My life got better. And it wasn't until I did. And I would say the faith piece it needs to be the strongest or first leg, because if that's cracked, the rest, it will crumble, because if the money gets strong or the money gets weak, your morality can crumble everything else around you. You make the wrong moral choice, guess what? Now you lost everything. Yeah. Right. That's why the morality piece, if you're going to fix anything first, fix that first, because the rest, you can build, and it's a constant process, and you need to always work on your faith and your morality. That needs to be so pure, because I liked how you said when the weight comes. When the weight comes, I call it pressure or temptation. Which way are you going to go, man? Who are you? Right. And that is something that I have to challenge myself with every day. every day I want to take this hard left. It's very interesting. Like you never get it fixed. And I think that that's also a piece that people think one day they're going to just get it fixed. It's not getting fixed. It's a constant process. You battle it, right? It doesn't need to be a stressful battle, but it needs to be a conscious and deliberate battle. You're like aware of it. Okay. I'm making a deliberate decision to make a better strategic move for me, my family, and just what builds me and doesn't break me.
Yeah, we're all born with a certain propensity to sin in different areas, and those are our weaknesses, and you have to be aware of them. I mean, if I was running a business, right, I would do what's called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Right? I know my business. I know what it's good at. I know what it's bad at, and so I got to be aware of what our vulnerabilities and weaknesses are. As an individual, I know what my temptations are, my weaknesses, and I'm aware of them. And if I wake up every day and pretend I'm not, then I'm going to succumb to them. And so, yeah. And
I forget what tomb it's on, or it's some ancient tomb, and I forget what language it's on. But on the top, it says, it's something along the lines of knowing thyself is the root to inner peace. It's what it is. It's so true. You need to understand yourself. You need to understand your propensities. Good word. Your propensities. You need to understand your friction points and your triggers, your this, your that.
Yeah.
Because now you know what to address with intentionality.
That's
like
right.
You said.
Yeah. Man, I could sit back and dialogue on this like forever. But where could people tune in to learn more about what you're doing, your coaching and things like that?
Yeah. Anybody can always get me on my website, TaylorCavanaugh.com.
Okay.
That contact form goes right to me. I don't AI anything. I don't outsource any communication. All comms go directly to my personal email. Also, my Instagram, TCavOfficial, DMs. Once again, Chad, we connected on there too. That was awesome. It was very cool. I'm all that's me on there. All comms are going to be with me. I do that by design with intentionality because I like to know who's coming in and who's talking, and from front to back what the issues are, right? So people can be very honest. And on my YouTube, Taylor Cavanaugh, TCav TV, right? I do gym sessions with different characters in Southern California and the country. And we do pretty much like a podcast, standing up, learning about people's lives and paths, redemption arcs, faith, family, fitness, finance. We get into all of it. And then my stream of consciousness videos, we drop 2 every week, man. We don't miss, right?
Yeah.
We preach consistency. We got to be consistent.
That's right. Yeah.
And so those are my platforms. And
we'll put all the links, by the way, in the
that's
show notes below. So anybody watching, listening, you go into whatever platform you're on, we'll have the links in the show notes. But bro, like super awesome to spend a day with you.
Yeah, it was epic, man. We slang some lead, man, and slang some gems. It was really an honor. I want you to know it was kind of surreal for me flying here because I had seen you, online on stages and speaking, and I had a huge level of respect to what you've done and just your message and your messaging, how you communicate it.
Thank
right?
you,
It's not easy getting on stage and communicating a message, and you could really tell when people have conviction about what they're speaking about. And I saw that, and then just connecting with you, man, and being here, flying here, it's been an honor. So I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man, very much. And like I said, we totally behind you, and I mean that. Like you can go back and watch every episode. I've never told anybody that before on an episode. I really believe God's got something special for you. And,
I appreciate that.
I believe that the 9 years ahead of you has been nothing but a tax to keep you from doing what God created you to do. I really believe that.
Thank you, Chad.
Hey guys, I'm gonna give Taylor some gifts, but before I do, I want to do some shameless self promotion for the Resilient Show for things that you guys have been waiting for, and we finally have swag. And Taylor got the first one.
Those hats are legit
he got the very first one. They're comfortable, right?
Yeah, it's a legit hat.
Yeah,
I'll rock it.
So it says "Live Resilient" in the back. Our Resilient logo on here, and inside of it, our partner, 9line Apparel, who's making all of our shirts and caps for us. We have some shirts. If you ever get an email from me, you'll see my tag line of my email. Or get a book signed that'll say Isaiah 6:8 from one of my favorite verses. Send me, right? The whole verse goes, and I heard a voice from the Lord saying, "Who will go and who will fight for us?" And I said, "Here am I, send me." On the back,
I get the chills, man.
Man, that's the calling.
Yeah,
we gotta go. We gotta answer that call. There's a Resilient logo on the back. The flag. Everybody. So Tiffany asked about this today. Everybody thinks this flag's backwards when you see it on a shirt, and it's not. If you see uniforms, Marine Corps doesn't wear patch uniforms, but you see people wearing American flag uniforms. The flag, the stripes always run to the back. So the stars in the front. So if this flag was on this side, the stars and stripes would be in the front, and it goes to the back. So there you go. All right, here's another one. The big unveiling here. Live resilient on the chest. Logo on the back. And I've always heard people say this, like jumping. Like, hey, I'm going skydiving. Like, you want to come? I try to talk when I'm jumping a lot. I try to talk everyone to come skydiving with. Like, what if I die? And I'm like, well, what if you live? Right? So people like hold back on their dreams because they're worried about like, what if I die? Or what if things go wrong? What if I fail? What if you succeed? What if you live?
I like that.
So there we go. That's our three debut shirts for the Resilient Show and cap. So you can go on our web store and get some. Plus, we have Uncharted Supply Company gear. We have some survival gear on there. We have a couple of things. This 72-hour bag. We have a first aid kit. We have the Zeus charging pack. We have all kind of stuff on the website there. And then, without further ado, we're gonna give a shout out to our sponsors and thank Taylor with some gifts. So we have amazing sponsors. Uncharted, Gators Eyewear, BioPro, BioAccelerator, Allied Wealth Management, and Smith & Wesson and Vortex Optics. So we have some Gators Eyewear for you. These are the blast shields. And I'm getting the signal in the back. Sorry, holy water. We don't have any right here, but we sure put down some holy water on the range today.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. And like I said, when I was drinking.
Quenches your thirst and the soul.
Quenches your thirst in your soul, right? These are the blast shields. These are mine, but
badass, man.
But whatever glasses you want from Gators, we're gonna get you hooked up.
Amazing.
I even seen. I'm saying we're giving you Gators, but Taylor showed up wearing Gators because
that's all we rocking.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah,
they're good. They're ballistic. You got good ballistic lenses, and they're solid. And then I think this is the one you picked.
Yeah,
this is the MMP 9 Shield Plus. Awesome grip. I love all the indentions on the grip here. And then it has a dual port that keeps it shooting nice and flat. So I love this gun. On it has a Vortex Defender CCW red dot. And
the Resilient Show, man.
We're gonna hook it up, man. We our sponsors take care of our guests. So
very cool, man.
And I seen it today. You about to see it on Patreon. Taylor, no surprise, can shoot.
A little bit. We were warming up, man. We were warming up. It was nice. Yeah. It was nice to get out there.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I really appreciate this. This is special.
And one more thing, right? We try not to let you leave empty-handed. We got a Mighty Oaks swag bag. In it is some Mighty Oaks swag from Mighty Oaks Foundation. If you or any warriors ever want to go to Mighty Oaks, it is free of charge. We pay for everything. We have amazing programs.
And you got good stuff in here.
Yeah, we got T-shirts in there. I think maybe a cap. We got some books. Oh yeah,
man.
You're gonna be maxed out.
Damn, dude.
But you gotta get out to Mighty Oaks, bro.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, you gotta get out to Mighty Oaks. I know you met someone.
Things,
that went. Yeah.
Great mission, man.
Love to have you out.
More importantly, great execution.
Yes, and we got an awesome team. A lot of team guys.
Seriously, I appreciate this.
Absolutely, brother. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Appreciate the team. Thanks everybody coming out and shooting and spending some time.
We'll do it again. If you have not done so yet, like, comment, subscribe, share, and we want to get this as far and wide as everyone can find out about the Resilient Show and learn about guests like Trent, aka Trent Francois, or Taylor, whatever you want to call him. You're back. You're back, Taylor. Again.
I'm back, man.
Taylor, here in
I dip
in
into
America.
Trent every now and again.
Guys, one way you could really support us is to sign up for our Patreon. We put this show out for free to you guys, and our Patreon is a way that you could support us to keep the show going. Plus, you'll get tons of bonus content, behind-the-scene looks. We're putting more and more great content on there, and it's super cheap. Just go there and subscribe, support us. We love you guys. We could not do this without you. Thank you so much. God bless, and stay resilient. Hey, what's up, Brazilian family? I am so grateful for each of you who tune in every week to hear our episodes. We have such incredible guests and topics that I am passionate about, our team's passionate about, and we could not do it without you. So we're thankful for you. We love you. We appreciate you locking arms with us to be more informed, to become a more resilient community. And I want to invite you to become a tighter part of that community by joining us on Patreon. If you go to our show notes below, you can click the link and get dialed into our Patreon and get extra content weekly. You can join for $15 a month and get behind the scenes footage, get closer access to me. I have monthly Zooms that I'll be doing with some members of the community. And so we'd love to get more involved. Again, go below in the show notes and click the link and join today.